Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, the Honorable Mayor Karen K. Go.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call to order the 5:15 City Council meeting of June 16th, 2021. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Go.
Here.
Vice Mayor Weir. Councilmember Arias.
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
I am here.
Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Freeman.
Here.
Councilmember Gray.
Here.
And Councilmember Parlier.
On March 4th, 2020, Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency in California due to the threat of COVID-19. We understand that many of the governor's executive orders related to COVID-19 have been rescinded or are due to expire soon. However, many orders remain in effect, including the suspension of some components of the Brown Act related to public meetings, such as this. And as such, Councilmember Smith and Parlier are participating by phone. All council votes tonight will be conducted by roll call. Additionally, it's our understanding that Cal OSHA requirements have not yet been updated to reflect current state public health requirements. In order to remain in compliance with Cal OSHA guidelines, at this time, seating in the chamber is limited. And now, would you all rise, and I'll lead us in the invocation. Following that, Councilmember Patty Gray will lead us in the pledge. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the privilege of gathering. Thank you for this country in which we live, where we can enjoy freedom. Thank you for this great city, and thank you for the people. Thank you for a city where people truly care for one another. We have such great generosity. And tonight, we ask for your wisdom as we do the people's business. Father, we just ask that you would give each person here the insights that we need to make the right decisions. We ask for your wisdom. And tonight we ask that peace would prevail. And we would say, as the psalmist said, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord. And we pray this in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you may be seated. Here are a few guidelines to help our meeting run smoothly. We'd request that you turn off your phones. Please be courteous in the use of cameras and videos. And for safety reasons and as a courtesy to others, no signs are allowed in the council chamber or in the lobby. Applause is only allowed during the presentations portion of the meeting, but not during other portions of the meeting. And please avoid any behavior that disrupts the meeting. We're really glad that you're here. There are many people who are tonight here to engage in the civic process, and we welcome all of you. We would ask, we have a lot of people here, and so just limit as much the in and out as possible, and let's just move forward now, and let me give you a few guidelines. This meeting has limited public access. Therefore, public comments were encouraged to be made to the city clerk through email or by phone call. If you're here in person to make a public statement, please fill out a speaker card, give it to the city clerk. All statements are given a 3-minute time limit, 15 minutes per topic. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, please give those to the clerk, who will give copies to the council. If you're here to speak on hearing item 10A, we ask that you speak after staff's presentation on that matter. We're very interested and concerned with your issues. However, due to the public notice requirement of the Brown Act, the council can't take action when an item isn't on the agenda. The council can, however, refer your matter to committee or request that staff contact you. Please avoid any behavior that disrupts the meeting, such as repetitive statements, going off topic, shouting, surpassing the 3-minute time limit. Madam Clerk, do we have any public speakers?
Yes, Madam Mayor. We've received 53 public speaker cards regarding multiple subjects, 8 in support of the budget, 31 in opposition of the city budget, 5 regarding police department, 3 regarding e-bikes, and 6 on separate subjects.
Thank you. And as a reminder, all statements are given a 3-minute time limit, 15 minutes per topic, and we appreciate your input very much. Madam Clerk, please call the first public speaker.
The first speaker is Russell Johnson.
Mayor, members of the council, Russell Johnson, happy to be here. I'm here tonight on the behalf of the Associated Builders and Contractors, standing in unison with the Business Coalition of the Bakersfield Chamber, the Bakersfield Association of Realtors, Kern County Builders Exchange, the Kern County Hispanic Chamber, and the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce. We're here tonight to ask you, as you vote on the budget this evening, to consider the people's budget. And what I mean by the people's budget is to take the data that the Chamber of Commerce has. They were able to go out, do a survey of the people. And what they came back with was data that says the top priorities are fixing homelessness, dealing with adding additional police on the streets, and also finding ways to retain and recruit more jobs to Kern County and Bakersfield. So as part of the business coalition that represents tens of hundreds of thousands of residents that work jobs in the greater Bakersfield area, we ask you to support the people's budget backed up by the data that is supported by the Bakersfield Chamber of Commerce, not from folks that may represent a small segment of the community. Thank you, and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Dave Demahowski.
He's coming in. Welcome. Please introduce yourself and go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Dave Demahowski, speaking on behalf of the Home Builders Association of Kern County. Our Home Builders Association supports the city's spending priorities in the area of homelessness, public safety, and economic development. Our builder-developer members build not only houses and apartments, but they build entire neighborhoods and communities. And that process requires a safe environment. Even during the construction process, our industry is subject to vandalism and theft of building materials and appliances from new homes under construction. We also support your economic development and job growth initiative, and would just like to point out that in the face of a very serious housing shortage crisis, housing affordability crisis, it becomes very difficult to provide for the housing needs of our community. Construction costs, especially the cost of lumber, has added more than 30% to the cost of constructing a new home or apartment. Your ambitious economic development goals cannot be met if we don't find a way of providing more housing. And housing shortage, lack of housing affordability is really the enemy of job creation. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak and support the staff recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We have Caitlin Peterson and then Nick Ortiz.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Kaylin Peterson, representing the Greater Bakersfield Chamber. To give you a perspective, we're a business organization that represents over 1,100 businesses, which collectively employ over 70,000 people. 2 weeks ago, I stood here on behalf of our coalition of business organizations to share our support for investment in public safety, addressing homelessness, and creating jobs. And over the past 2 weeks, we've submitted close to 200 letters in support of these issues. Together, our coalition, which includes, as Russell said, our chamber, the Associated Builders and Contractors, the Kern Home Builders Association, the Kern County Builders Exchange, the Bakersfield Association of Realtors, the Kern Hispanic Chamber, and the Kern Black Chamber. Together, we represent thousands of Bakersfield businesses, which together employ tens of thousands, if not more, of your constituents. That is a large and diverse group of Bakersfield residents who are calling on you to support city efforts to fund increasing public safety and addressing homelessness. We know that the data backs this up. As you know, according to recent polling data, an overwhelming majority of Bakersfield voters want and expect your council to fund these high priority areas. Particularly, they want Measure N funds to go toward public safety and homelessness. We support the addition of more police officers in the city of Bakersfield. That was a Measure N campaign promise to the voters and to the community, the business community who supported Measure N, and that they expect the city to follow through on that promise. To that end, we also support the addition of non-sworn personnel and recognize the benefits of community policing in a responsible and equitable way. So today, I just want to encourage you to vote yes on funding these high priority areas and to continue to consider the majority of your constituents because they are very clear on where they would like for you to spend their money. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson. Next speaker, please. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Nick Ortiz with the Greater Bakersfield Chamber. I wanted to talk about recent city council meetings and the fact that I have been coming to these city council meetings for nearly 15 years, and only in the last few months have I really witnessed the type of decorum or the lack thereof that we're seeing in city council meetings, and it's become extremely distressing to me. I applaud activism. I believe in the right of anybody to free speech and to express that and to hold a variety of views. And I also think that no public official is in any way above criticism. I've known many of you for years. We have disagreed. We have disagreed without being disagreeable. And I think that's the issue that we face today. So when I see people coming before the council and commenting and saying, F you, or I hate you, or I would like you to die multiple times, it distresses me. And the other thing that I think it does is that it actually prevents people, your constituents who have business before this council, from feeling like they can actually engage. I do not know what the solution is. I know that, in these times, your options are limited. But I just wanted to say, for me and for the folks that I represent, that we do appreciate you. We know that you are trying your level best, and that as you make these really tough decisions, we understand you have to weigh a lot of things. And may I be the only one probably tonight to say, I apologize to you for what I assume is the barrage of verbal assault that you're going to face tonight. So thank you very much for your service, and appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Ortiz. Next speaker, please.
We have Shannon Summers and then Neil Sanafa. Good evening.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself. Go ahead and pull the mic down just a little bit, please.
Is this better?
Yes.
Thank
you.
Good evening, and I wanted to address everyone, and I wanted to speak on the behalf of your constituents that would like to have you, to remind you that public safety is a high priority issue in this city and in the county. And I would like for you to understand that if you do your job, that defunding the police would lead to increased violence. And I would, as someone who's lived here for 18 years, I not only encourage you to make sure that the part of the budget that is funding the police and for public protection, but that you increase it as well and recruit more, because more are needed. I live in an area that when I need help, they'll get there when they can get there, and I understand. Okay. Police officers who defend Americans pay a great price in the position that they are in. And it's up to us to always support and encourage them. So I encourage you to please always support public safety as a high priority issue.
Thank you. And for the record, would you state your name, please?
Oh, my name is Shannon Summers.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Hi, Margo. My name is Neil Sinapa. I am a resident of Ken Weir's district. He's on the phone. I wish he was here. Basically, what I wanted to comment on is the budget. So year after year, y'all have been increasing the BPD's funds. I understand that there's folks in our community who are asking for y'all to do that. There's also folks in our community, our marginalized communities, who are asking you to look at the budget in a different way and to allow for participation in that budget, which hasn't been seen. And so, I mean, for me, I honestly don't think that any of y'all would even consider any of the things that these folks have worked hard to put in paper to try to address towards you. Even some of our some of the ones that are supposed to be more progressive here on this council probably won't. Eric, you've got a little bit of time. I know you're new to this, so we'll see. Andre, I supported you when you ran for the first time. I donated money, I knocked on doors, I did all those things. And what really made me lose faith in the electeds here was 5 years ago, I was here with Faith in the Valley Kern, while the Cerna family was speaking on what happened to Francisco Cerna. And it was the same day, Andre, that you were sworn
Mr.
in.
Sinapa, your time is up.
Oh, I thought I had 3.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did
thought
we
I
have
had
a
3
problem?
minutes.
I'm sorry. Just 1 minute.
It's like 30 seconds.
Oh, okay. They had a technical error. So go ahead and let's just reset it to the appropriate place. It felt short.
Let me know when I'm good to go.
Yeah, well.
All right, so pretty much my feeling then, Andre, that was the day that you were sworn in, and no one on the council could even give condolences to the folks who had just lost a family member killed by the BPD. And so to me, no matter how many people come here and tell you that they see things differently than you do, I don't think that you're even going to consider it. But what I will say is that in Bakersfield, as someone who has spent time organizing here and throughout Kern County, that demographics here are changing. And ideologies here are changing. And as the saying goes, the chickens come home to roost. And so 5-10 years down the road, when you have continuously advocated for more and more funds to be given to the BPD, and more folks have told you that we need to expand mental health, services to our community, things that will actually prevent crime rather than things that can just respond to crime. I just want y'all to think about that because things are changing here. And I hope that you really consider this because in a couple of years, things are going to be very different. And I just want you to know that we have our eyes on you, and we're expecting a lot more than what we've seen in the last 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We have Pastor Jordan and then Pastor Angelo Frazier.
And okay. We're having a little technical difficulty, but they're resetting it. So just let me know, team, when you're ready. Okay. 6 minutes? All right. We have 6 minutes left on this topic. Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Pastor Joseph Jordan. I'm a pastor of a local church here in this community. I have two concerns. Number one is that crime is constantly going up. And I know I'm not the only person that see crime going up. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get a policeman anywhere in this city because the city is growing. To say defund the police, maybe I'm not the smartest person, but it don't seem like a smart move to defund the police. When you look around, not just here, but we've had 250 roughly mass shootings. The numbers for gang violence shooting in this city is up 45%. Now, maybe if I lived in Seven Oaks, a gated community where we have private security, I could say that. But for the poor people that live on the east side, say from Chester to Washington, between California and White Lane, they need more policemen. They don't pay the taxes that they do in Seven Oaks, but they are taxpayers, okay? My other concern is, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong, when we get all of this money dumped into the city, some of it is basically because of our blighted areas that need it. Why is it that all the money tends to go everywhere else, exception being the Martin Luther King corridor, the area between Chester, Mount Vernon, Edison, White Lane? Drive through there, you won't find a drugstore, you won't find a grocery store, you won't find a movie. The only thing you'll find out there is violence, and at that one park, Casaloma Park, I take that back, 2 parks. You can't even go to them as citizens because of the gang violence. You got a water slide out there, there's no swimming pool out there, there's no basketball court out there. So when we are trying to deal with crime in the city, what are we giving the people in the poor areas to help them deal with what they don't have? Okay? Here you have the McMurtry Center, okay? You have a skating rink, ice skating rink. Not to be facetious, how many black people you know go ice skating? Okay?
Thank you, Pastor. Your time's
Thank you.
up. Thank you. And the next speaker. Pastor Frazier, I think you're the last speaker on this topic.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and City Council member, so it's an honor to be here and stand before you, and I just want you to know I am praying and encouraging you in doing the right thing. I think a healthy desire for God, I think thriving families and public safety is key. Public safety is key. I spent most of the day at the hospital holding a grieving mom's hand, and you would think I would go the other way. We really need our streets to be safe. We really need our families to thrive, and we really need a fear of God in our homes. Because if we don't have those three, we won't have a city. So I am glad that you are here. I'm praying that you will do the right thing. I say increase the budget. Public safety, if we aren't able to walk up and down our streets, we won't have any safety in our streets. So we need to have that. I can proudly say I'll stand there and I'll yell it from every housetop. I'm a volunteer chaplain for the BPD, and I'll keep doing it for another 25, 30 years because I believe in public safety and I believe what the police are doing. And yes, there are mistakes. Yes, there are wrongs. But I'd much rather have public safety going in the right direction than defunding the police, and we'll begin to look like cities across this country that we all know what they look like. And I don't want to live in a place like that. I want to live in a place like this. Thank you, Mayor, City Council.
Thank you, Chaplain. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
We have David Lyman and Cynthia.
Jamara?
Yeah, Jamara. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Good evening. I'm David Lyman with Visit Bakersfield. I am delighted tonight to give you a sneak preview of our latest publication to promote Bakersfield. The new official Bakersfield Insider's Guide is a full-color magazine that highlights ways to experience California's 9th largest city. The Insider's Guide replaces our award-winning Arrival Guide that's been our workhorse for quite a few years now. The Insider's Guide is different in several ways. It's photo heavy. You won't see lists of things to do because you will see pictures of people experiencing those things to do. It's advertising free, so it's 100% Bakersfield. And it's full of insider tips from your local staff at Visit Bakersfield. That's why we call it the Insider's Guide. Between all 5 of us, we have a combined 207 years of living in Kern County. We know Bakersfield. We'll debut this tomorrow. Copies will be available at the Visitor Center in our office at 515 Truxtun Avenue. Soon it will be available at all hotels, museums, and the Amtrak station. You'll also be able to download a copy online at our website, visitbakersfield.com, as well as order your free copy. The Insider's Guide was produced and designed by Madden Media, which is one of the nation's top producers of destination marketing materials. We think it's our best guide yet, and I hope you will enjoy the official Bakersfield Insider's Guide, your guide to the sound of something better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyman. Next speaker, please.
Cynthia Jamara. Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. In recent weeks, there have been a lot of people appearing at the council meetings addressing various budget matters. And a lot of these people have exercised their rights, of course, to in support of their position. But sadly, some have done so in vulgar and utterly disrespectful ways. The most vehement in this regard have been to those addressing the budget for the BPD. I wasn't at these meetings, but I heard about them. I don't believe we've ever seen this kind of behavior in these chambers. And speaking for myself and on behalf of many others who support you as our elected representatives, please accept our sincere apology that you've been subjected to such abusive and threatening behavior. It is inexcusable in the public forum. We're sorry this has happened, and we hope that civility can return to these chambers going forward. This behavior should not happen in the public forum where we have the privilege for open discussion. Regarding the BPD budget matter that resulted in this behavior, as you do on all matters that come before you, I am confident that you have received substantial input during recent public hearings, and also as you and your staff have reviewed statistics and budget issues that have plagued other cities. Your decisions are made after careful deliberation and consideration of all these facts. In all matters, it is wise to learn from history. How much more so when public safety is at stake? There is very recent history from which we can learn, and we do not repeat the mistakes that we've seen being in the past. With all due respect, I encourage you to not make the same irresponsible decisions that we have seen in other cities, decisions that have left communities with higher violent crime across the board. All we need to do is look at some measurable data to see that defunding police has left people in those communities unprotected from violent criminal attacks. For example, New York City defunded by 9.2%. The result, rape up 2%. felony assault up 8%, murder up 17%, shooting victims up over 76%, shooting incidents up over 77%. In Los Angeles, they defunded by 8.1%. Homicides are up 23%. In Minneapolis, defunded by 11.2%. Murders are up 88%. Portland, defunded 6%. Homicide offenses up well over 100%. There's a direct correlation between decreasing funding of police and increased crime. It's a very simple equation. Reduced funding for law enforcement equals increased crime. We've seen it across the board, across our country. I find it disturbing that law-abiding men and women in our city would support defunding the police. I would hope that whatever is behind this, whatever's at the heart of this notion that defunding police is a good idea would be exposed, then hopefully there could be reasonable discussion free from threats and vulgarity about the real concern on the police and the best way to address that. Defunding is not the answer when most assuredly it would lead to increased crime.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. Jamar. Next speaker, please.
We have Curtis Bingham and Nick Hill.
Yes,
Welcome.
my name is Curtis James Bingham, Sr., servant of our Lord and Savior, God Almighty, Jesus Christ, who truly is the only begotten Son of our Holy Heavenly Father, God Almighty. The Lord tells us to bless our leaders. And so I'd like to bless you, First Lady, and our mayor for giving us comfort when we lost our mayor. Mayor has some great shoes, but you also have your own great pair of shoes, too. And you have comforted the whole city when we see who's out there representing us. You've been doing an excellent, excellent job. The talent God has given you is tremendous. And to our city manager, thank you for comforting us, too, because we had a mighty city manager. Thank God for finding you, bringing you here, comforting us. And the Lord also like to say, if you look at a figure of $12 million, that would pay each council person $40,000 a year and the mayor $60,000 a year for 30 years. If Measure N funds hold up to where they're going, you'll get $2.4 billion in 30 years. And you mean to tell me we can't afford $12 million for 30 years to pay the council people and to pay our mayor, and we're standing to get $2.4 billion in Measure N? Something to think about. The Lord wants to bless his servants. The Lord also said in the first book of the Bible, it grieved him at his heart that he made man because they got so evil. And Jesus tells us it's going to get worse and worse and be the same way when he got ready to come. He says it's going to get so bad that if you don't cut the time short, no flesh will be saved. Law enforcement is sent here by the Lord to help us. Take them away one day, and then we'll let everybody see how they're going to talk then when everything will be destroyed. And you got to remember, Bakersfield Finest, people don't want to hear this, but this is the God honest truth. This Measure N money would not be here if it wasn't for them. You guys put it on there, and so we thank you. You spent $150,000 to survey the city for law enforcement. You put it on there, and it got voted in because we got some wise, beautiful people in Bakersfield that know we got to have law enforcement to be able to make it. We owe Bakersfield Finest great respect for them being on there, because if they wasn't on there, it would have never passed. So we got to be fair with them and give them their due. But see, this got to be remembered every single year. They deserve a blessing. This is the truth. You can't take it away because they did law. And then the Lord tell us if something happened in Alaska, Detroit, or Chicago in the law, leave Bakersfield alone. See, don't come getting us talking about here we come again because an officer in Alaska done something, one in Detroit done something, somebody in Chicago done something. We doing a good job down here because when they put that report out, it's the safest city. Bakersfield Finest is trying to keep us safe. There's no greater way to end your career all through this board than to say I kept the people safe. Give them every single penny they need and more. And please remember, they made Measure N come through.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Welcome.
Good
Please
evening,
introduce
Mayor
yourself.
Gold, members of the City Council. My name is Nick Hill. I'm the president of the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce. I also stand before you today representing Jay Tamsey and the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce as well. Jay Tamsey could not be here tonight, so I'm representing the Kern County Black Chamber of Commerce and the Kern County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. We are here tonight to urge you to move forward with public safety, addressing the homeless issue, and jobs for the city of Bakersfield. We feel that these items are vital to the survival of our city and keeping everyone safe. It's a matter of public safety. We don't support defunding the police. Our chambers combined, the Hispanic Chamber and the Black Chamber, have 15 to 1,600 members and have thousands of employees. And when you combine this with all of the chambers combined, we're looking at a multitude of people that all support what you're doing. So right now, I stand before you to urge you to move forward with the measure that you're doing and vote on these vital matters, to vote yes on these vital matters. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
And let everyone leave here without any bitterness in their heart. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Next speaker, please.
We have Tammy Wozak and John Barge.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council members. My name is Dr. Tammy Wojcik, and I'm representing E.F. Johnson, JVC Kenwood, a global supplier of leading mission-critical system and radio solutions for first responders. We have been present in Kern County in the city of Bakersfield for many years. We were further pre-qualified as a vendor to participate in an RFP to replace a severely outdated radio communication system for the county as well as the city, which is why I'm here speaking to you today. After our review of the RFP and with advice from council, JVC Kenwood decided to file a protest. The bases of the protest includes the following. Number one, Kern County violated its own procurement process by changing the pre-qualification requirements in the RFP. Number two, the RFP requirements in part are both vague and contradictory. We further requested that the county halt the current process so that it may review our protest claims. Ultimately, we requested that the county cancel the RFP and reissue an RFP that reinstates the pre-qualification requirements, allowing 6 weeks to respond to the same. The county initially responded on June 14th that there was no time to respond to the protest. If you don't bid, so be it. This was followed by a quick response that the protest is being reviewed by staff. Due to this continued non-response, JVC Kenwood made the decision to no bid the RFP in, which it deems to be an unfair procurement process. There were only 3 vendors, including JVC Kenwood, who were qualified for this multi-million-dollar project. 2 vendors remain. 1 will be ruled out because this vendor, too, is impacted, leaving the city's $19 million investment in the hands of a sole source procurement process. JVC Kenwood wanted a fair and transparent bidding process. We received neither. You, as representatives of the city and its taxpayers, have an opportunity to control your own destiny and intervene. We believe that the RFP process was severely flawed to the detriment of the city and county, who are deprived of a competitive procurement. In conclusion, JVC Kenwood respectfully asks that you refer this matter to the city manager, IT, and to public safety to conduct a review of our protest issues to determine the best path forward for the city, including choosing its own system. We believe that the city will be faced with financial, legal, and technical issues if this procurement is allowed to proceed unremedied. Thank you for your consideration and time. I am available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone who wishes to make a referral? Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager Clegg, if you can help me out, did we receive the bid protests?
Councilmember Gonzalez, that was a separate matter. The bid protest that has a blue memo related to it is a separate matter on the agenda tonight. This item was not on tonight's agenda. The city has received notice of this bid protest to staff through the county, and the city has been engaging with the county to start the review process of the protest.
I understand. Okay, thank you. No referral.
Do we need any follow-up, or are you already following up on this, City Manager?
Correct, Mayor. Staff is following up on this issue.
Okay, so no referrals needed. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor and City Council, how you doing? My name is John Barge. I relocated here since the pandemic.
Mr. Barge, would you raise the mic, please? Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, I am a professional artist, and I moved here to Bakersfield since the pandemic, and I do different projects for sports athletes and celebrities, and I'm sponsored by Montage Paint. So I'm offering you all an opportunity to be a part of the Guinness World Record for city and artist collaboration. I've done one for the city of Pomona, which I've done and completed, and it would be for the longest painting of a river canal. And so basically, if you guys voted for that, it'd be easy as pie because I'd be the one painting and you'd be the one approving it. I have a Zoom call because I'm doing online classes, so I have another one for the longest ribbon in a police badge. And so there's some things that I've been doing and mulling over, so if you guys vote this in your next meeting, I'll be happy, and I can send you also samples of my illustrations and all the art I've worked on. Yes, and the painting is actually all coffee infused, so that's pretty much it, and let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Barge. Councilmember Arias.
Mr. Barge, pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Thank you. Staff, if we could engage with Mr. Barge and see how we could be helpful in that process.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. All right.
And if I may, we can do that, Councilmember and Mr. Barge, if you could provide some of the materials you brought to our city clerk, then we could take a look at those. If
Okay, I sent an email to you guys, so
yes,
we're good. Okay, and so anything else? So I just sent it to your online portal.
If you have any contact information,
yes,
that'd be great to leave it with the city manager.
Okay,
thank you.
Alrighty, and by the way, it'd be the longest ever. So just to let you guys know that. So do I just come up and hand it to you guys? Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speakers, please.
In opposition of budget, we have Fahim Floyd and then Temi Akambi.
We have a number of speakers here, so if you're able to keep your comments shorter, we'll be able to accommodate more people. Welcome. Please.
My name is Fahima Salahuddin Floyd. I am with the People's Budget Bakersfield, the only People's Budget. You know, it was interesting because when I first came up here, I wasn't sure what I was going to say, but as I sat in the back and I listened to people in the community come up here and paint a picture of people who dare to dream of public safety in a different way, as if we are anarchists, as if we aren't people with feelings and families and thoughts. We want to defund the police because there is a different way to look at safety. Everyone keeps bringing up public safety. What do you think we're here for? You think we sit in a hole all day and wait to come to these meetings and talk crazy to people? What you are witnessing is anger that has been multiplied over time. When people come and they speak and they give you respect and they speak graciously and they speak perfect King's English, you disregard them. When people come up here and they cuss and they yell and they have righteous anger, which is their right as human beings whose civil liberties are infringed upon, you still don't listen. And so it is ridiculous that We have used so much time in opposition to people who just want freedom, equity, and to be treated the same way everyone else is. Everyone in this community matters. Whether you're white, whether you live in the Southwest, everyone in this community matters, yet and still, every time people come up here to speak in opposition to the work that we've been doing for several years, not just 1 year, this didn't happen overnight. Like, it's insane to me that so many people can stand here and paint us to be these horrible human beings when in all actuality, we are just daring to imagine the world in a different way. There was once a time where I would have been cattle. Black people were not people. We were 3/5 man. We were owned by other people. And there was a time where that was the status quo. There was a time where that was normal and regular. And there was a time where the people who didn't want that were considered insane. You have the opportunity to be on the correct side of history. You have the opportunity to make a decision that actually benefits those who do not look like you and who do not come from the privileged backgrounds that you come from and who do not have the same privileges that you have. So when we ask you to redirect funding, when we ask you to defund the police, what we're really saying is dare to see a world where Black and brown people are treated fairly and equitably. That is it. So all of the narratives that have been going on here tonight, you should all be ashamed of yourselves. I have 2 daughters that go to school in this city. You don't get to come up here and paint me to be a bad person. This is absurd. So when we say defund the police, what we're asking you to do is actually exercise some humanity and some dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. And just as a reminder, audience, that no, that is inappropriate.
I don't care. Shut up.
Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Temi Akambi. First, I would like to say I will be using all 3 minutes because that is my right. There's plenty of people who spoke in support of the budget and you didn't ask them to limit their time. So I would like to start by saying that. Number 2, I would like to say if police was the solution to crime, if police was a solution to public safety, there wouldn't be crime anymore. Police have been around for a long time, and the rates of crime have been climbing. So if that was the solution, it would have been working. So what we're offering is a new solution. If you try something twice, maybe it was a mistake. If you try something 3 times, maybe you had a bad day. If you've tried something for hundreds of years, you need a new plan. So that's what the People's Budget is offering. I agree with what Fahima said right before me. We're not asking for police to disappear overnight. We're saying what causes crime, what causes violence, what causes people to turn to gangs, and removing that motivation. That is what the People's Budget is here to do. It's not a new idea. Angela Davis brought it back up in the 60s. It's something that's been around for a long time. So to say that the city council has weighed both sides and done research and heard from everyone, when we had council members emailing us Vox articles as supporting evidence, that doesn't give me hope that this city council knows exactly what it is that we're asking for and why it would be beneficial. So I would urge the city council to take our side seriously because it is a serious matter. That a lot of work, not just by the people here in Bakersfield, across decades have put into this idea. It's not a new one. It's not a radical one. It's one that's been around. MLK believed in it, since people like to quote him so much. It's not a new and radical idea. I think it's one that needs to be taken seriously. So that being said, I have something to say to each of you. To Bob Smith, you line your pockets by exploiting brown and black people, and I think we should boycott Bob Smith. Patty Gray.
That is disruptive.
I still have 50 seconds. Please let me finish. Patty
Yes,
Gray,
you're allowed
you mentioned
to
you
finish.
have a black friend when you were called out for being racist. Saying that is inherently racist, which makes you racist. So boycott Patty Gray. Andrea
would you just stop for a minute?
Gonzalez.
I'm going to let you continue.
You're a
Audience,
sellout who turned your back on the black and brown
Audience.
community to be the city council's diversity hire. These white people use you as the overseer. You're not one of them and you'll never be. Boycott Andrea Gonzalez.
Okay,
Erica
would you
Reyes,
stop, please?
I'm from your district.
We're going to take
How does it feel to be Rudy Salas's
Please
Running for
stop.
assembly will not make selling your soul to white supremacy worth it. Boycott Eric Arias.
You are allowed to speak, audience.
Chris
That is
Perrier.
not
Once
allowed.
a pig, always a pig. Boycott Chris Perrier. I didn't read that one before. Yeah, sorry, guys. Ken Weir, you care more about horses and bikes than living and breathing human beings in your own word. Boycott Ken Weir. Bruce Freeman, displacing people and then
Please
getting
stop.
mad at them for being unhoused.
Your time is up.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. And just a reminder, this is a place where we do want to hear your comments, but there is decorum expected. She was fine in giving her comments. Audience, it is inappropriate. And I will not give you additional warnings. This is your first warning on this. And I expect that you stop. I know you're better than that, so let's just be respectful of the process. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mayor, I would suggest to you that you've given them one warning, another outburst from the audience. The time limit is over. We have had more than 15 minutes on the budget. They do not get 15 in favor and opposed. So one more disruption and warning from the mayor. I would suggest to the mayor that public speaking on this topic is over.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We have.
It's over. There's no more public speaking.
Next speaker, please. Officer Riddy, you have already been warned. Okay, we are taking a break right now, and we are taking a recess.
So I can go.
I've given you a warning. Second warning. We will have to clear the chambers. We will come back and listen. This is your third warning, and we need to clear the chambers at this point. We're reconvening now at 6:33. I'd given numerous warnings, and at the point when there was disruption, we cleared the chambers. So the speaking order, this is what happened tonight. The first group that was announced by the city clerk were those who's on their cards supported the budget. The second group of speakers that we heard were just miscellaneous topics. And we currently are on the group that is opposing the budget. At this point, we have 8 minutes and 44 seconds left. And after Councilmember Gonzalez speaks, it will be Dalton's turn. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to get clarity from the city attorney. What government code section allows us to clear the chamber during a public meeting?
Mayor and council members, the Brown Act, the government code.
And can you
I
elaborate?
don't have the specific section, but it's very clear. And we have had this discussion with not only Mayor Go, but Mayor Hall. And as long as we announce to the public the warning and a second warning, and then announce that it's disruptive for the process to continue, that then allows the meeting and the chambers to be cleared.
Okay. How many more speakers do we have?
Madam Clerk, would you please address that? So I know we're on our third group, and it looks like we have 8 minutes and 44 seconds left for this 15-minute segment.
We have a total of 43 speakers left. We have 35 in opposition of the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, go ahead with your 3 minutes. Welcome.
Hello. I think to start, I think I had a lot of things to say at the beginning. And then, yeah. To be honest with you, I was born in Bakersfield in 1996, February 18th, at Mercy Hospital right here. And I've been doing like community organizing, social justice work for about 5 years now, voluntary and paid. And the one thing that's consistent is the heartbrokenness that comes from watching each and every one of you. Some of you new, some of you old, like Karen, Andre, Bruce. It's really disappointing to see our elected officials choose to literally disrespect your constituents on a daily basis. It's disrespectful for you to literally, one, bring all of these people, disrespect these people who have literally done more work than each and every one of you, who have lived in this city and have lineages of family members who have lived in the city longer than each here. You all should be you guys should literally be so ashamed of yourself, especially the ones that, each of you call yourself a Christian. You should literally feel like shit because the people that you are disrespecting, the people who you have like said, I'm gonna call the cops on you. I'm a black queer person. Do you know what happens to black queer people when you call the cops on us? We die because your bitch ass cops kill people like me. They kill people like all the people out there, but you don't care, Karen. You don't care, Bruce. You don't care, Patty. You don't care, Eric. You don't care. You know why you don't care? Because your life isn't at risk. Because why? You come out here in your bitch-ass ascots. What I'm saying is, literally, you guys make it your job. You make it your job to do everything but what the got elected for. You got elected to represent those people. You do not represent those people. You choose to listen to the chamber of who chose to organize against constituents. You choose to let people like the Tea Party, who you're friends with, Patty Gray, because let's be real here, your old friend Jackie Sullivan is the one who was in the Tea Party email. Who did that? What does it look like when our elected officials are the ones sending emails to people like, oh, we got the vote. We got the vote. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're going to give more money to the cops. And I hope you literally go to bed and your life. I want you to know that. Because every time you have these demons, I hope they come get you a day. I have 12 seconds left. Jesus. You all really got to get it together. Because black kids are being born here every day. And guess what? You're going to us. So remember that. Have a good day, Hal.
Next speaker, please, Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Fabiola Orozco.
Is Ms. Orozco out there? Ms. Orozco? Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name's Fabiola. First of all, I'm going to keep it short. I had it much longer, much more in depth, much more educated, but then I opposed the budget. I wanted to say that you all will try to invalidate us. Like if we're extremists, you're the extremists. We are everyday people. We're students, we're office workers, we're community caretakers, teachers, professors, parents, gardeners, pet lovers, nature lovers, musicians, artists, first-generation Americans, business owners, etc. We come from diverse backgrounds. We have different abilities, different healthcare needs, gender identities, age groups. We're brought together by our shared love for humanity over profit. Every person that speaks for the budget is a business owner, a developer, etc. They get paid to do this. We do it for free, for a reason. You're all trash, every single one of you. I'm done. I yield my time.
Next speaker, please.
We have Onyx Ariella.
Hello, my name is Onyx. I also oppose your guys' budget. It sucks. I know you guys have not heard anything that we've been saying. It's clear you guys have made no changes, you should look at the people's budget, the Bakersfield people's budget sometime, and really look at it and see what your community wants, what the people actually want, not what your people want, the actual people. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We have Martin Higuera.
My name is Martin Higuera. I'm a high school student in this city. You are all disgraces. I oppose this budget. Please vote against it. Listen to your community. I yield my time.
Next speaker, please.
Emily Boone.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Emily Boone, and I oppose the adopted budget that's up, and I commit my time to the next member.
Next speaker, please.
Myra Rios.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Myra Rios, and I am here to say that I oppose this budget, that what is happening here is so disturbing today, and I yield my time to the next speaker.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Brandy Woolsey.
My name is Brandy Woolsey, and I oppose your police state budget. I'm asking you to adopt people's budget at Bakersfield, and I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Aminda Salazar.
Hi, my name is Almanida Salazar. I oppose this budget. Please adopt People's Budget BACO, or at least look at it. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Cassidy Shepard.
Cassidy Shepard is the next speaker.
Hello, my name is Cassidy Shepard. I oppose your budget, and I urge you to support the people's budget. Please listen to your constituents. You have blood on your hands.
Next speaker, please.
Jessica Rios.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Jessica Rios, and I want to oppose this police budget. I want to oppose the city budget, and I urge you to adopt the people's budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Riddhi Patel.
My name is Riddhi. I oppose this budget. I urge you to adopt the People's Budget Bakersfield. I yield my time.
Next speaker, please.
Brittany Rice.
Hi, my name is Brittany Rice. I adamantly oppose this police state budget and urge you to seriously reconsider the people's budget. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Elizabeth Sparmetto.
Hello.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Elizabeth Spavento. I just want to read very briefly from a report that was issued on December 22nd of 2020 by the California State Department of Justice. And in this report it said, because of defective or inadequate policies, practices, and procedures, KCSO, Kern County Sheriff's Office, has failed to adequately and uniformly enforce the law. Such failure has led the Attorney General's office to conclude that KCSO has engaged in a pattern or practice of conduct that deprived persons of rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the Constitution of the United States or the laws of the state of California. And in this vein, I would encourage you to adopt the people's budget and to legitimately look at what the State Department is telling you. What we are telling you is that the police are corrupt. They are not doing what we are asking them to do. They are not making us safer. And the state attorney's office has already shown that. So how much more evidence do you need to understand that this isn't the right way? Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Josh Stenner.
Welcome, Mr. Stenner. We have 1 minute and 47 seconds left for this portion of the comments. Go ahead.
My name is Josh Stenner. I've been organizing here. I've been in front of each and every single one of you for years at this point. I am a child of Bakersfield. I was born here. And quite honestly, you guys should be disgusted with yourselves. We know that you're profiting off of. We know that 4 of you are represented by the Board of Realtors, that you have friends with deep pockets, that you benefit and you profit off of. I know, such a lovely smirk, Patty. That you benefit and that you profit off of the displacement of homeless people. Andre, you advocated for that homeless center to be in the historically underinvested, and Bob knows about this, through Black neighborhood in our communities. The sound of something better, Karen? It's the sound of the same old thing. You're repeating what happened years past. I'm going to give you a benefit of a doubt because you have a chance to set some of these people straight. But you guys should be disgusted. We know that you're profiting off of this. We know that you line your pockets, that you just want to keep building more development that you can profit over there and continue to push all the poor people and all the undesirables out of your area. We know this, and you want to just keep the police on one area. Because if you can just keep the poor Black and brown people on this side of town, instead of being scared of these killers that you have here, one of these people literally killed a 73-year-old man. You had 6 articles about a dog when your people are killing people. I yield the rest of my time.
Madam Clerk, that concludes that 15-minute segment on that topic. Do we have any other speakers on different topics?
We have 3 speakers regarding e-bikes. We have Miss Marcy Cunningham.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Marcy Cunningham of Bakersfield. And Madam Mayor, honorable council members, For the last several city council meetings, equestrians and others have been commenting on their concerns of the city allowing e-bikes on the Kern River Parkway hiking and riding trails. You have been seeing only a handful of us due to the COVID restrictions on attendance at these meetings, though you have received many emails and letters. We want you to know that many equestrians, hikers, and concerned citizens agree with our message that e-bikes should not be allowed on hiking and riding trails. To that end, we have gathered over 900 signatures on petitions that I will be delivering to you this evening. The text of the petitions is as follows. We, the undersigned, oppose allowing motorized e-bikes on hiking and equestrian trails and urge Bakersfield City and Kern County governments to protect its citizens by prohibiting e-bikes from trails designated for hiking and equestrian use. These trails are not appropriate for e-bikes because of the innate danger of mixing their higher speeds of travel with that of pedestrians and horses, and the risk of startling horses causing accidents and injuries to all concerned. Motorized e-bikes should only be on pavement. They should not be allowed off pavement on any part of the Kern River Parkway from Lake Buena Vista to Lake Ming. Please keep e-bikes in urban and suburban areas and off Kern River Parkway hiking and equestrian trails. That was at the top of the petition that has the signatures. Signature collectors walked neighborhoods, went to retail stores, churches, stables, and parks to collect signatures. Many signees were unaware that e-bikes might be allowed on hiking and riding trails and were eager to sign a petition. We realize that these petitions can only give you a snapshot of the public concern on this subject, but we hope that you will do the right thing by only legally allowing e-bikes on the paved portions of the Kern River Parkway. Please address these concerns by prohibiting e-bikes on dirt, hiking, and riding trails in any proposed legislation that is brought before the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I may, I'd like to.
Our next speaker.
We're only having one person. I just didn't want to interrupt you when Ms. Vargas walked in. So if you can just go wait in the lobby, please. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We have Jeff Hino.
Yes. Sorry. Mr. Hunley?
Oh.
Next speaker. And then we'll call you, Ms. Vargas. Yeah, I just didn't want to interrupt.
Hi, Jeff Heinley.
Welcome.
Honorable Mayor, Council, staff. Many of you know me. I'm here to talk about the e-bike issue that's going through committee. I am in support of our pedal-assisted bikes on the path. It's part of the regulations that the state came up with. Taxpayers have the right to a multi-use path. And I think while committee determines the safety issues, I think that the path actually is big enough that we can all use it. It's a community path. Our equestrian riders, they don't need to have e-bikes buzzing through their areas. The e-bikes can stay for commuting and on the paved areas. There's plenty of markings and safety issues that a lot of other communities use. They've already integrated these bikes. These bikes have been integrated into their community since 2015, when the discourse actually started. And so I think as a community, there's plenty of room for everybody on our multi-use trail. We properly market, we vet it out, and everybody gets a little portion of it. The community gets a portion of it. It's not to be a me thing, it's to be a we thing. And that's what our community is about. And that's why I support not banning e-bikes off of our multi-use trail, but we evolve our trail to be all-inclusive for the investments made by our community, our investments made individually, our investments made by the business community, And we're talking a lot of investment over the last 5 years. And I think it would be a disservice if we completely banned bikes. I don't think that's necessary. I think the balance is and the win-win is that we support and continue to allow our community to have those options to commute if they're convicted over environmental concerns, or that they're just trying to save a little bit of money. And that's what the e-bikes help people like me do, and like you. And that's really all I have to say. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope that the discourse in committee will bear fruit, and it'll be in a spirit of wisdom for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
We have Marian Vargas.
Welcome. Please lower the mic.
Thank you very much. I know this has been a difficult evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Marian Vargas. I'm a retired elementary school counselor. I did lots of work with conflict resolution. I hope somewhere in your planning for the future, you'll look maybe into community mediation. I hope that you'll be able to see past some of the inappropriate language that you must certainly find offensive, to perhaps hear some of the underlying messages and experiences that some people are expressing here. So I wish you well. I wish you wisdom in making your decision with regard to other matters. I also wish you wisdom in making decisions with regard to what I'm going to speak about. So thank you for your attention. With the passage of SB 1096, the state of California defined motorized Class 1 and 2 e-bikes as bicycles, and therefore gave legal access to trails where bicycles are allowed. Class 3 e-bikes, not considered bicycles, were specifically prohibited from going on bike, equestrian, hiking, or recreational trails. The law did recognize the authority of local governing bodies to prohibit Class 1 or 2 e-bikes on specified trails, and to allow Class 3 e-bikes on trails that are prohibited by SB 1096. Safety should be the primary concern in guiding your decision on this issue. Class 1 and 2 e-bikes can travel 20 miles per hour, Class 3, 28 miles per hour. More powerful e-bikes, not defined by these classifications, can go 45 miles per hour. While state law requires that e-bikes have a sticker showing whether they are Class 1, 2, or 3, it is impossible to tell from a distance if a bike even has a sticker, thus making any enforcement difficult. Users of the Kern River Bike Trail moving at different speeds are diverse and include pedestrians, joggers, dog walkers, children at play, and citizens of all ages and capabilities, as well as cyclists, who also are diverse in age and capabilities. Mixing speeds and types of travel on trails is a serious safety consideration, whether on the bike, hiking, or equestrian trails. Other communities have faced these same issues. In San Diego County, Class 3 e-bikes and those without a Class 1 or 2 sticker continue to be defined as motor vehicles and are not permitted on bike trails. Class 1 and 2 e-bikes are prohibited at 17 parks and preserves due to safety and maintenance concerns, but do not have access to other parks. The whole idea is to secure safety on the trails. Thank you for listening. You know my intentions. Thank you.
Thank you. And Madam City Attorney, would you like to speak now?
Yes, Mayor. If there are no more public statements, I wanted to supplement my comments and my answer to Councilmember Gonzalez. In addition to the intent behind the Brown Act, which is contained in the Government Code, and I don't have a specific section on that, I would take this opportunity to note that your council follows Robert's Rules of Order. As you know, that's expressed within your municipal code under Chapter 2.04. And I would point out that there's a specific section in the code, I'll read it to all of you for the record. Under 2.04-100, subsection C as in cat, any person who disrupts the orderly proceedings of the council meeting may be barred by the presiding officer from speaking further before the council during that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Next group of speakers, please, Madam City Attorney, Madam City Clerk.
Our next speaker is Judith Olson.
And how many speakers on this topic, please?
6.
Okay.
Mayor, what is the topic?
The topic is
the police department.
My name is Judith Olson. I am a God-fearing citizen of Bakersfield, a city that I love. I have lived here since 1945. My children have been born here. I want to thank you, especially tonight, for stepping into your role as advocates, guardians, and decision makers for Bakersfield. I respect your work and honor your service. Specifically, I am here to voice my support for all law enforcement officers in Bakersfield, especially the Bakersfield Police Department. Last October 28, 2020, a major crisis occurred in my neighborhood. A person shot and seriously wounded someone on a nearby street and subsequently fired on a police deputy. The individual fled into our neighborhood. He had a rifle and when tracked by the police helicopter, actually fired into the air at that helicopter. A dangerous situation indeed, with potential for great harm against innocent inhabitants. That day, these law enforcement units responded to the immediate severe danger. The Kern County Sheriff's Department, patrol deputies, SWAT unit, detectives, internal affairs, Bakersfield Police Department, California Highway Patrol, and helicopter unit. It was a multi-agency event. The threat was neutralized with overwhelming force. The neighborhood recovered from lockdown, fear, and threat within a matter of hours. How grateful we were and are for our local law enforcement. In the past months, including today, loud, vulgar, and meaningless words have sailed around this chamber. Defund the police. Yes, defund the police. How would you apply that to my neighborhood on October 28, 2020? A gunman with a rifle running through an alley, scaling backyard fences, firing at a police helicopter, looking for hostages perhaps? Defund the police? What a foolish thought. Replace the law enforcement effort that day with a few guidance counselors to try to talk the guy with the hot gun out of his gun, already used several times? How foolish. These words are beyond meaningless. They are an empty slogan pitched to a frequency only heard by those who neither think nor reason. I would say to those who have used this slogan, and I don't think they're listening, but I wish they were, in these chambers, you are persistent, but persistently deluded. Reconsider, use your energies instead for plans to grace our city and bring peace and harmony to our streets. Search for a better slogan. Here's a suggestion. Back the blue.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Dewey Compton.
I needed that.
Welcome.
Good evening, council members and mayor. This is my first time speaking here, so this is a little new for me. So I am a high school educator here in Bakersfield, and normally I would probably come here, but I'm usually at school working on something or doing adjunct duty or something off the hours. But I just wanted to just address my, I came to talk about an educational issue here, but I think it kind of involves everything that we've been talking about tonight. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I have a high schooler that just graduated, and he's going to BC, Bakersfield College. I have a freshman who's just graduated her first year in COVID. And we are law-abiding citizens, and we pay taxes, and we appreciate the work that you guys are doing to the best of your ability to navigate these crazy waters. But, you know, as an educator, it's our job to protect children. And I can't think of a worse thing than to harm a child, right? As educators, the system is built in so that anybody that harms a child, it is dealt with within the system. We do not defund education because of 1 or 2 or 5 bad teachers that have done something wrong. And so I think we can look at that as an example for our police enforcement here. We should not defund the police because of a few bad people. What is really needed, and this is what we can learn from education, we have a really strong support staff. We have a security team and a police officer at my high school, and they have great relationships with the kids. If we were to defund them, if we were to take their resources away, there would be chaos on our campuses. Trust me, there's chaos already, right? So we need more support. And what I'm proposing is that we look, I mean, I don't know about the police department. I'm just coming from an educational standpoint, but our security staff and our police officers, they have great relationships with our students. And that's what needs to happen, is build relationships with law enforcement and the kids. And I know it takes time, and it's tough to navigate that. So, but anyway, just consider that. So I would just want to make for the record that I am in support of our law enforcement here in our county, our wonderful county, which it says, "In God we trust." I love it in Bakersfield, and just look forward to seeing what you guys do with that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Next is Donald Olson, followed by Nadine Escalante.
We'll just have Mr. Olson and Ms. Escalante can wait outside until he's finished.
Hello.
Welcome.
My name is Donald Olson, and you've heard from my wife about the incident we had October 28th. I just felt it important to introduce something from God's Word for our consideration. This is Romans 13, verses 1 through 7 from the English Standard Version. Let every person be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resist what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval. For he is God's servant for your good. But if you do wrong, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, or the pistol as it may be, or rifle. For he is the servant of God, an avenger who carries out God's wrath on the wrongdoer. Therefore, one must be in subjection not only to avoid God's wrath, but also for the sake of conscience. For because of this, you also pay taxes, for the authorities are ministers of God, attending to this very thing. Pay to all what is owed them, taxes to whom taxes are owed, revenue to whom revenue is owed, respect to whom respect is owed, honor to whom honor is owed. And I just really appreciate the way you, Mayor Go, and the rest of you conducted the affairs this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Nadine Escalante. Welcome. Please lower the mic.
Good evening, everybody. This has been an eventful evening. I wanted to present to you this evening, since the People's Budget Group was going to be here about the budget, I wanted to present to you what we have been doing with Bakersfield Community Policing, with Bakersfield Police Department, with Chief Terry, his administration, and also with Mr. Christian Clegg on creating a community advocacy program that actually helps the people in this community that are having problems with our law enforcement. That is primarily our Black and brown community members. You know Ms. Go from me prior being a rebellious person here yelling and being disruptive, and me learning that the only way that we help solve the problems with our law enforcement is we come with solutions. We can't just yell all the time. We have to have solutions. And so as I saw the conversations that were beginning last year during COVID, I realized we do not have enough community relationships. We don't have genuine conversations with our Black and brown community. And so I had a great conversation with Assistant Chief Hale 3 weeks ago and with Captain Matson. And so I'm going to present to you guys copies of our community advocacy program. I apologize, I gave you the copy that was not edited, but it was short notice. There's my business cards. But what I wanted to point out is I do agree with what everybody's saying out there. I live on the east side. Mr. Rear is my ward. I didn't even know that he was my council member. I thought it was Andre, because I see Andre more on the east side than anybody. And that's really sad. I respect you, Andre, because I know you work, and I appreciate you. Eric, I already have a meeting with Eric for next week to discuss this. So I know there's council members who truly care. And when I see Patty's face, I see that she does care. I don't care what people do in your past time. I don't have time to look. I'm a mom. I have kids I gotta take care of. I got basketball practice. I got things I gotta do. But I will tell you this evening, there is a problem with our police department. When I came in here tonight to sit down in a disabled seat, because I am disabled, I had to argue with Officer Grime for my seat. Had I been white, I wouldn't have had to argue. I would have got my seat. But I had to show him my disabled little paper to get my damn seat. Why? Because I'm brown? Because I have tattoos. So what I did is I told him, "What's your supervisor?" He refused to give it to me. And I said, he told me, "I don't have a supervisor." I said, "Everybody does. Who's your boss?" Refused. I called Assistant Chief Hale. He took care of it. This is what they're complaining about. And I understand them. I don't agree with the vulgarity, but I understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Escalante.
Here's the
Next,
copies.
you can just give those to the clerk, please.
We have Mr. Scott Nobe, followed by Emma De La Rosa.
Is Scott still out there? Nope. Nobe. Nobe. K-N-O-E-B. Okay, let's go on to the next speaker then.
Emma De La Rosa.
Good evening, everyone.
Welcome.
My name is Emma de la Rosa, Policy Advocate with Leadership Council. I want to raise the big importance of public participation. I'm sure that you would all agree that public participation is one of the most fundamental principles of democracy. And tonight's events show that you are not practicing public participation to the extent that it should be, and the way that democracy should be ran. Community members should have the option and the opportunity to speak the way that they want to speak and say what they want to say. With that being said, I want to highlight that the redistricting is not on the agenda tonight, and there was a direction from council members to speak on redistricting, and we would like to see redistricting on the agenda for the next coming meetings. I also want to urge that City Council adopt the participatory budgeting process, and that the People's Budget Bakersfield is the adopted budget tonight. The 7 priority investments outlined in the budget are representative and reflective of community needs and priorities. I want to say that during the police department's budget presentation, the very own chief said that the police is not equipped to address the root issues. However, the city is in luck. Because investing in these 7 priorities outlined in the people's budget can and will address the root issues. It is important that you as city leaders prioritize the basic necessities of every one of your communities. Take, for example, housing. The city is facing an affordable housing shortage. I've received calls from folks who are facing evictions and do not have a place to go. They apply to multiple places, multiple apartment places, and no one has vacancies. That's a problem. When we saw the annual progress report from our planning department, there were more single-family homes built than multi-family homes. That's an issue, and I don't see any attention on that. The Brundage Lane Navigation Center staff presentation also highlighted the dire need for affordable housing. Last time I was here, I mentioned the need to invest in infrastructure for the Lakeview and Casa Loma communities, particularly for lighting. Communities are living in the dark. Crime prevention through environmental design is often what police department talks about as a way to prevent crime. And one of the first things that they mention is lighting. There must be lights in order to prevent crime, right? If the city is not funding basic needs such as housing, public health, and infrastructure such as streetlights, is the city trying to prevent crime, or is it trying to induce it? The 7 priorities outlined in the people's budget is reimagining public safety, and I urge you to adopt this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. De La Rosa. Madam Clerk, does that conclude our public speakers tonight?
It does, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Our next item under consent calendar, items 8A through 8V for approval. We have 1 staff memorandum transmitting additional correspondence regarding item 8AU.
Thank you. Councilmember Freeman.
No one has any items they'd like removed from the consent calendar? Okay. If there are none, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
There's a motion, and we will take a roll call vote. Madam Clerk, please.
Vice Mayor Weir, Councilmember Arias,
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Yes.
Councilmember Gray,
Yes.
and Councilmember Parlier. Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next item, please. Yes, sir. Yes, we're already finished with that. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, next item. The next item is the consent calendar hearings. The purpose of this section is to vote on all the items listed under the consent calendar hearing in one motion without further comment. If anyone would like to have any of the hearing items listed, the item must be removed from the portion of the agenda. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the regular public hearing portion of the agenda. Madam Clerk, would you please read the items.
Under consent calendar public hearings, we have item A, public hearing to consider a resolution approving and adopting the Public Works Director report for the Consolidated Maintenance District in the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, confirming the park landscaping assessments and authorizing collections of assessments by the Kern County Tax Collector. B, public hearing to consider resolution approving and adopting the Public Works Director report for the Consolidated Maintenance District for the fiscal year 2021-2022 budget, confirming the street and median landscaping assessments and authorizing collection of assessments by the Kern County Tax Collector. Item C, public hearing to consider a resolution approving and adopting the Public Works Director report for 26 traffic signal maintenance districts and the fiscal year 2021-2022 budgets, confirming the assessments and authorizing collection of assessments by the Kern County Tax Collector.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the consent calendar public hearing items 9A through 9C. Is there anyone in the audience or in the lobby who would like to request that the hearing item be removed from the consent calendar? If so, please come forward. This isn't the time to take testimony, only to remove the matter from the consent calendar hearing. Seeing none, does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar hearing? Seeing none, at this time, consent calendar public hearing items 9A through 9C is now closed. Is there someone who would like to make a motion? Councilmember Freeman.
I'll make a motion to approve items 9A, B, and C.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, please call the roll for the motion.
Vice Mayor Weir. Councilmember Arias.
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Gray.
Yes.
And Councilmember Parlier.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Under hearings,
Our next item is public hearings. Each side will be allowed 15 minutes. It's 15 minutes for all speakers per side, so it's important that you identify yourself, make your statement succinctly so others may speak. We'll hear statements from those opposed to the staff's recommendation first. Then we'll hear from those who would like to speak in favor of staff's recommendation. If there's testimony on both sides, each side will be allowed a 5-minute rebuttal. There's a clock on the TV screens behind me, which indicates 15 minutes. Please step to the microphone, identify yourself. After 14 minutes, a yellow light will come on, and at the end of 15 minutes, a red light will flash, indicating your time is up. Quickly end your statement. You may ask questions during your statement, but they won't be addressed until the public hearing is closed. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statement, please give them to the clerk. She'll give copies to the council. Please be courteous to others who wish to speak. Madam Clerk, please read the first public hearing.
public hearing to consider an increase in water rates for the City of Bakersfield domestic water system continued from 6/2/2021 meeting. 1, resolution establishing water rates for city domestic water service area and Fairhaven service area.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg.
Mayor and Council, as noted in the agenda, this item was presented to you at your last meeting, so we don't have a presentation to go over at this time. Water Manager Art Gianello is available if there are questions, but there is no presentation.
Thank you. So at this time, I'll open the public hearing, and it continues to be open. I'm sorry, the public hearing continues to be open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? That is, those who are against an increase in domestic water quantity rates, monthly readiness to serve rates, and monthly private fire protection service rates. If so, please step to the microphone, identify yourself. Is there anybody in the lobby who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Just let the first person in, please. This would be in opposition to staff's recommendation.
I read an agenda item. Read unlike you. My name is Riddhi. I understand this is on the water item. I will stress that I can still speak on this issue because the entire fiscal year budget is related to this. So I'm going to still speak, Karen. I really want to stress that every person that came up here to speak is uneducated and ignorant because everything they budget. And I know you guys now know the budget because we read it to you at the last city council meeting. We agree and emphasize that every city council member here should engage their ward in discussion on some of these items like the water item and have bi-monthly meetings to address the community's needs on specific line item agendas like this. You guys don't want to hold bi-monthly meetings. Chamber of Commerce also ties itself to anti-union groups like Kern Energy.
Ms. Patel, the topic is
I know
related.
what the and I read. The city attorney is out here a gasket. I know what the agenda item is. This is tied to the agenda item. What do you want me to do, Karen?
It's not tied to the agenda
It
item.
is tied to the agenda item. I think it's very tied, Jenny.
I would give her a warning,
Ms. Patel,
Doe.
this is your first
I think
warning.
it is tied to the agenda item.
Ms. Patel, this is your first warning. Your comments need to be tied to
It is
this
tied to the
very
agenda item. You
specific
don't think water
item.
utility and the fact that utilities are decided by the city and rates are decided is tied to the fiscal year budget and how we invest our money and engage the community in a participatory process? Do you not think it is tied to that, Karen? Are you a yet?
I would also warn the speaker that shouting is very disruptive to
Or
me. I'm
are
having
you a
difficulty hearing, Mayor.
Or are you a Karen? Or
Ms.
are you
Patel-
Eric, Andre, Bruce,
Ms. Patel-
Patty Gray, my city councilman, Bruce Freeman?
Ms. Patel,
If you do not understand
this is your
the intersectionality
second
between
warning.
water utility rates and the fiscal year budget, you guys are idiots. And I'm not shouting anymore, I'm being loud. What do you want to do, Ginny? Call the cops?
Ms. Patel, you've had 2 warnings. Please continue if you want to only speak on this very specific item
I am.
related to
I
the
have the right to
domestic
speak.
water services.
And I have the right to speak, and I will speak on the water utility rates. You didn't give anybody else out here the time to speak. We had 30 plus members here. We had more people than Chamber of Commerce and the opposition. So you will let me Karen.
Ms. Patel?
What the
Is
Ms.
your
Patel, one
third
more time,
warning.
Karen.
Please speak on the
I am
domestic
trying
warning.
to speak. You won't let me.
Go
You
ahead.
keep interrupting me. You can shut your mouth and let me speak.
Go ahead and continue if you only want to speak on the domestic water system.
Okay, the domestic water system. As we also know, like every other thing that Southeast Bakersfield and marginalized communities face, is the fact that they don't have, if you looked at Calenviro's screen, that you would understand the water issues with every single one of these census tracts. Specifically your district, Eric Arias, they consistently drink poison and contaminated water because you guys can't get and fix infrastructure with the water system. So this is tied to the water system. A lack of investment in infrastructure with the fiscal year budget is tied to the water system. And I'm going to use my time to speak. You can shut Karen, because I understand that what we are asking for is you guys to do your and engage the city and engage the community members
Ms.
in
Patel?
allowing them to have a say in where their taxpayer
Ms.
money
Patel,
goes.
you're-
Stop my time. Jesus Christ.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? And I want to be clear that this is a hearing specifically on this topic, and anyone who wants to speak needs to be able to stay on topic. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? Yes. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, council members. My name is Eric Oriana. I graduated from Centennial High School, and I'm here to say that I'm disappointed in every single one of you. Eric, I'm sorry, I'm disappointed in you as well. Andre, I'm disappointed in you. Mayor Karen Go, I'm disappointed in you. Mr. Freeman, disappointed in you.
Are you speaking on the domestic?
I will speak to it, miss.
Please
allow
stay
me
on
to-
topic.
Okay, thank you very much. This topic is limited to 15 minutes. The attorney, Ms. Virginia Gennaro, stated that the reason to restrict According to the Brown Act, there's a right to restrict speech to items based on a person's disruptive behavior. You have assigned disruptive behavior to everyone who is speaking in favor of or in opposition to this budget. It's a shame that you would limit speech here in this chamber. It is a shame that you would allow
Sir?
such undemocratic principles as you
Sir?
are allowing in this item.
If you would like to
You are-
speak on
you
the
are-
domestic water rates, you're welcome to speak. This section
domestic
right
water
now,
rates, this domestic water rates is limited to 15 minutes, and I'm speaking to this item. This item limits the speech of the citizens of Bakersfield. And
sir,
it is a
I've
shame.
already given you 2 warnings. Please stay on topic.
I'm on topic to this item, and it's respective to this item that there's only 15 minutes to this item, and that is a shame. You are restricting people's right to freedom of speech. You are getting a salary from
Sir?
our tax dollars.
Sir, you are off topic. Right now, this portion of the meeting, this hearing item, is for those who wish to speak in
Mr.
opposition
Councilman Arias,
to staff's
I
recommendation.
would ask you that,
Sir?
that you please speak to your council
Sir?
and ask and demand more.
Sir,
We
I'm
want
asking
more.
you at this point
This
to
is
leave.
unacceptable. Why are you not allowing us to speak?
You're off topic. This is reserved
Mayor,
for the
Mayor
hearing
Go,
item.
I am being extremely respectful with you here. I could be much more disrespectful. Okay, I'm not being disruptive. I'm just saying, I very much disagree with your attorney's legal analysis, but your ability to restrict.
Sir, if you'd like to have that conversation, we can have it at another time. This
Okay, I
portion of
would
the
like to
meeting
have that
is
conversation,
specifically,
and I will like to continue my public comment.
this portion is specifically reserved for the hearing item, and this section is for anyone speaking in opposition to staff's recommendation. I've given you 2 warnings already. If you'd like to continue on this topic, we would like to hear you, but
Okay.
it needs to be limited to this. And if you'd like to have a discussion on something else, that would have to be reserved for another time.
Excellent, excellent. So I would like to speak to the funds being used for this topic. Instead of investing more money to public works projects like these ones, we're assigning funds in excess to other agencies and other departments within the city. We could create well-paying jobs for residents in Kern County by assigning more funds to this budget. But we're failing to do that, and what we're doing is assigning dollars to other areas that are not creating the economic development that our city needs. We demand more. The younger generation demands more of you, council members. It is unacceptable that we continue down this path. We need to invest more in water infrastructure and more public infrastructure, as opposed to spending our money in oil that pollutes our air, pollutes our water. It's unacceptable, Mayor. It's unacceptable, council members. We demand more. We hear more. We will see you at the ballot box if you don't hear us. Again, we will see you at the ballot box if you don't hear us. We demand more. We need more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation specifically on this issue?
We're going to follow up on that analysis of the...
Can somebody give, City Attorney, can you just give him your contact information?
Can I get your contact info? No, you can call me later. How disrespectful. That's ghetto right there.
Sir,
That's ghetto.
if I may, Mayor.
Mr. Arias.
Sir, I forget your name, but if you could provide your cell phone number to our city clerk, I'd be happy to reach out and have a conversation with him.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Temi Akambi, and I would like to speak about water and water safety in the city of Bakersfield, specifically about drinking water in the city of Bakersfield. There's been tons of research that contaminants, including but not limited to lead, can increase behavioral outbursts within folks of the community and lead to acts of irrational behavior, including and not limited to violence. I think the best way to protect the community is to invest in the infrastructure to limit the likelihood of that happening. I think that in tons of ways that we don't initially consider, there are ways that we can limit the health, both physical and mental health deficits that we see in our community, and I think water and the infrastructure related to that is vital to it. So I urge the community, I urge the City Council to support any funds that can go towards supporting this infrastructure, especially if those funds can be taken from other less vital departments. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation?
Hello.
Welcome.
My name is Martin Higuera. I am a high school senior in Bakersfield. We are talking about water rates, and this has everything to do with the most marginalized people in our communities. Water rates directly impacts our Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities the most, so you will listen to me. And specifically, Eric Arias, Andre Gonzalez, how could you? You two are supposed to represent some of the most marginalized groups in Bakersfield. But instead, you sit there and allow these to run the How dare you? Your silence and willingness to go along with whatever they say shows that you are complicit in the violence that is carried out against people of color in our community by pigs in the Bakersfield Police Department. How could you? You should be ashamed of
Mr.
yourselves.
Higuera, please limit your comments to the topic at hand.
See, I expected this. They're all happy to admit they uphold white supremacy on a daily basis. Patty is connected with
Mr.
all
Higuera?
the big money interests you can think
Mr.
of
Higuera?
in Bakersfield.
This is Please
so
stay
is
on
Chris,
topic.
Bruce, Ken, Bob,
Mr. Higuera?
and you too, Karen. You're white passing. You have the
Mr.
whitest name. You guys are fine with
Mr.
upholding white
Higuera,
supremacy.
you are welcome to stay on topic, but I've given you 2 warnings, and if there is a third variance from topic, I will ask you to leave.
Again, water rates have everything to do with the most marginalized people in our community. Water rates directly impact Black, Brown, and Indigenous people the most out of everyone in Bakersfield. So you will listen to me, Karen. Again, you two are utter to Hispanics all across Kern County. And I'm going to warn you to think long and hard about if you really want to spit in the faces of Black, Brown, and Indigenous people in your community by voting to increase the budget of the most racist, deadly police force in the country
Mr.
by
Higuera?
11 million.
Off
You should be
topic.
ashamed
Please
of yourselves.
Leave.
You two aren't dumb.
Mr. Higuera,
I know you're smarter than this.
please leave.
You
You've already had
understand
3
the
warnings,
harm
and
you're
at this
doing
point,
to our
you will need to
communities,
leave.
and you just don't care. How dare you?
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation? I want to make sure that those speakers who come up, we want to hear from our public, but you need to stay on topic, please.
Hello, my name is Fabiola, and I'm gonna ask you, Karen, I'm gonna remind you, Karen, that this is my time, and please don't interrupt me because I will be on topic, so please refrain from interrupting me and everyone else who is on topic because this is all related. Everything is interconnected. You cannot separate water from anything. So to start, I grew up in Wasco, California. It doesn't have the best infrastructure. It doesn't have the best, healthy, clean water to drink. This is related to how we spend our money. We're not spending it on infrastructure like we should, like the People's Budget Bakersfield outlines that we should. You should listen to us. Okay. I just want to say, we're all here. We're going to keep being here. You should get used to it. You should stop, embarrassing yourself and continuing to, treat us like if we're not people who care about our community. And that's it. I want to echo everything that everyone else has said.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition to staff's recommendation on this specific topic? Please lower the mic. Thank you.
Hi. When it comes to water rates, they are tied to, the communities of color, People's Budget Bakersfield. One of our asks is reparations, and you know that water rates do directly impact this community the most. And there's a lot of important asks on that budget that do tie into this. And honestly, today, this was the first time I've ever come out to any event like this. And I witnessed something that I'll never forget. There was full-on suppression. Literally, all People's Budget has asked for is just a chance to be listened to, and we didn't get that. And we just are asking for you to defund the police because violence prevention in Bakersfield is something that's needed because
Sir, just a reminder, this is to address your opposition to staff's recommendation on the specific water recommendation.
Yes.
Please stay on topic.
Yes. So, water rates directly impact people of color the most, and People's Budget Bakersfield does ask for reparations because communities of color have been harmed by this. And so, in that, how our budget does tie into this, I was trying to say, there are other important asks as well, that it all comes together like others were saying. I'm just echoing, and I'm a little nervous, not gonna lie, because it's my first time, but I was just trying to say that please just read the People's Budget, actually read it, give a good look at it, realize that it is relevant to everything that we've all been saying, and
Thank you. Your time is up.
Can we have your name for the record, sir?
Lance. My name's Lance.
I'll just be 2 seconds. I'll just be 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Come on, Andre. Arias, where's Arias at? We met at MLK. You can give me time.
Sir, you are out of order. Please leave the chamber right now.
You give me time, Eric. You give me time.
Sir,
he knows it. He knows. Look,
this is your second warning.
He's about to give me time.
Sir,
No,
this is your
sir,
third warning.
I'm happy to
Please
reach
leave.
out and have a conversation with you.
That's the problem. You never come out, so we don't see you.
Happy to have that conversation with you.
You never come out. That's the problem. Or else we would.
Now, is there anyone who wishes to speak in support of staff's recommendation? That is, those who are in favor of an increase in domestic water quantity rates, monthly readiness to serve rates, and monthly private fire protection service rates. Please step to the microphone and identify yourself.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. Art Cianello, Water Resources Manager for the City of Bakersfield. I'm here tonight to speak about the Water Resources Enterprise Fund, and specifically about the city's domestic water system. I am, as manager, I have proposed through the Proposition 218 notification system to make sure that all the ratepayers within the city's domestic water system gets 45 days notice to provide either public comment or written comment. And that's why the June 2nd hearing was continued 2 weeks until tonight, to make sure that everyone got their 45-day opportunity to provide written or verbal comments. A little bit about the City of Bakersfield's domestic water system. We serve about 158,000 people of about 397,000 people within the City of Bakersfield. And our system is bordered north-south on Stein Road on the east, and we go all the way west to Allen Road, north to Norris Road, and south to Taft Highway, and actually a little bit south of Taft Highway now, where we have some new developments occurring. It's my objective in managing the enterprise fund, not the domestic, not the general fund, but the enterprise fund, which has specific funds for domestic water, that to ensure that I provide the best service, the highest water quality for the people, and also to make sure that I continuously operate and maintain the system so that it has a long life and long longevity. I don't want to manage a budget where 10 years from now I'm going to be asking for emergency funds because I have old pipes that are bursting or old water mains that are failing. I always want to maintain the utmost maintenance in the system, and that's what I do. I spend over $1 million a year in just replacing leaking service pipes from the water main to people's front lawns where their meter is, to make sure that we're not wasting water, and to ensure that we're not damaging the street or providing poor water quality to the people. In addition to that, I've had an investment of over $46 million to provide groundwater treatment to over 30%, over 50% of our domestic water wells to remove the groundwater contaminant 123 TCP. It's a very successful project. It's about 2 years old now in operations, and we are meeting the domestic drinking water maximum contaminant limit of 5 parts per trillion. We're getting less than 5 parts per trillion in providing quality water service to the people in our domestic water system. In addition, we also have active water well sites where we're removing arsenic to make sure that we're meeting maximum contaminant limits. And just to speak a little bit about lead and the concern about lead, the Department of Drinking Water mandated us and also the Cal Water Service area to do, with our own funds, to do on-site testing at all schools within Bakersfield to test the source water coming into the schools, to test the lead content coming out of drinking fountains, and to test other water sources and other water uses within the school to ensure that there is no lead issues that are occurring within our schools. It was a very robust program. It took about 6 months to complete. We audited all the schools within the Kern High School District, and I'm proud to say that both Cal Water and the city are happy to report that we had very good results, and we did not have any reportable lead issues where any infrastructure with any of the schools where their pipes needed to be replaced. So we had good results there. So with the intent of this 4% rate increase, I'd like to remind you that the last time we had a water rate increase was 4 years ago. So I'm just always ensuring that whenever we do a rate increase, it's modest, it's measured, but it allows us to give us the enterprise funds required to provide operation and maintenance and to continue on to provide good water quality for the residents of Bakersfield. Again, I'm speaking just on the city's domestic water system, but I know Cal Water has the same goal in mind for their system. But they're right now, they're not proposing a rate increase that I know of, but our last rate increase for the city was 4 years ago, and right now I'm proposing a 4% rate increase. That will give me the funds necessary. Specifically, I had some very high rate increases in PG&E electricity. One of the big hits was an extra $1 million a year, and that was mostly because they adjusted peak usage time to be 365 days a year, rather than just, I think, 8 or 10 months out of the year. And in addition, they adjusted the peak times to match when people come home from work and from school and then use their water. And that's when all of a sudden we have to use all of our electricity. That's the most expensive electricity to purchase, and that was a big hit on our electricity budget. So these funds is not for extra growth because we have a water connection fee where growth pays for growth. This is just to maintain our domestic water system, to continue on with providing water quality, and also to provide capital improvement projects, planned capital improvement projects to keep our system up to date. Right now we're concluding a capital improvement project. We'll extend into the next fiscal year, about 6 months when we'll be complete. It was about $1.25 million for a supervisory control and data acquisition system. It's an updated electronic system where we can monitor our system, where we control the pumping, rates, where we can control and see whether an emergency generator is on or off, whether we're having a water quality issue or any kind of a water motor or a pump motor issue at any of our well sites. So we'll have real-time monitoring, and it will really enable us to maintain our system to the highest quality. That's our goal. That's my goal as water resources manager, is to ensure that we have a quality system, and these funds will go directly to continue to budget for both operation and maintenance costs, as well as for a 5-year CIP program to ensure that we always have the highest quality and modernized system. So that's a little bit of an overview in favor of why I'm proposing a 4% rate increase. And I can tell you that I believe these funds will be well used. We're always modest in our rates. We have some of the lowest rates as compared to other water purveyors within our Bakersfield or urban or metropolitan area, but yet we're still able to provide a modern system and provide good water quality and good pressure for the citizens of Bakersfield. So I'm proud of what we do, and that's some background and support of our 4% rate increase, which, if approved, it would be effective July 1st of 2021. I will say that within the last 45 days of our notification to all the residents that are within our domestic water system, we have not received any written comments, either opposed or in favor of the rate increase. So I'm reporting to you tonight that we have not received any comments, any written comments, other than the verbal comments that you've heard tonight at tonight's hearing. That's an overview of how we operate our system and how we want to keep it modern and up to date and well maintained. And I'm happy to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chianello.
If I may take this opportunity, Mayor and Council, to also follow up on a couple of questions that Council asked at our last hearing that reflect, again, staff's recommendation of support for this item. Councilmember Freeman had asked what was the percentage increase to those PG&E rates, and Mr. Chianello had prepared this information for me that it was a 9% rate increase on off-peak times and an 18% increase during peak times, and that's what's really driving that $1 million increase in costs, are those percentage increases. Councilmember Weir also made an inquiry about the flat rate customers moving to metered services, and Cal Water reported to us that they've completed an estimated 26,000 conversions since that effort began in the mid-2000s, and that there are another 8,000 to be complete by December 2024. But again, that is in reflection of some of the cost comparisons that we shared, and again, why we think our rate increase is reasonable and modest in comparison to some of the rates we see in other areas. And then lastly, I can share with Council in writing this information, but the domestic 5-year CIP, Councilmember Gonzalez had asked for information about just the domestic portion of the CIP budget, and that represents $5.1 million in this next year. The same table that was seen at the last presentation, at least for this coming year, is that same number, that $5.1 million. And then it's 4.7, 3.7, 2.5, and 2.5 million in subsequent annual CIP proposals in the next 5 years. So we'll provide that to Council also in writing.
Thank you, Mr. Clegg. And just a little bit more on the CIP projects. You know, one of the safety provisions that we want to expand for our system is the installation of more emergency generators at our domestic well sites. We do have a number of generators, and whenever we build a new water well site, it does come installed with a new generator. About 30% of our system has emergency generators, but through design and through experience, we know that we need to have more emergency generators in case there's a power outage. And so part of this $5.1 million that we've budgeted for the upcoming fiscal year and also the subsequent fiscal years into the next 5-year plan, we do plan on installing emergency generators and expanding that out into our system, maybe to about 3 emergency generators per year is what we're anticipating, and that will help greatly in power outages. And also when we have power outages, then we can still provide water at the proper pressure and at the proper volume to maintain health and safety standards. And so that is a major part of our CIP project. We also have a nice converted well. It's an older well, but we've converted it to a domestic water well. It's got really great water quality, but it does not have a blockhouse. The new masonry blockhouse is on it. So our planned CIP project for this upcoming fiscal year is to enclose that well with a security blockhouse and all the new electronics and SCADA system and emergency generator required for this older well that came into our system. Has been converted from an agricultural well, city-owned, to now a domestic water system, city-owned, and we're providing a blockhouse for security and for the electronics and the generator and the chlorine that's required to provide good service to our people. So that's a slight overview of our CIP projects for the upcoming fiscal year.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg, were you about to speak? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chianello.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak in support of staff's recommendation? Okay.
Just some
Seeing
closing-
none at this point, I'm closing the public hearing and returning it to council for comment and action. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Art, we had our comment earlier about Southeast Bakersfield, but I just wanted to make clear for the public that there are various different water districts within metropolitan Bakersfield. And in fact, the city of Bakersfield's water department covers most of West Bakersfield, and Cal Water actually covers most of East Bakersfield, east of Union. And in fact, Southeast Bakersfield is a portion that Greenfield covers. Can you verify that for the public?
Yes, actually, on Stein Road, east of Stein Road would be the beginning of the Cal Water system. And Cal Water is actually a little bit larger than the city's domestic water system. They have about 70,000 customers. They go all the way up to Rio Bravo in the northeast and all the way down south as well, like you mentioned, along South Stein and east of that as well, down to Taft Highway. And just south around Taft Highway area, there's also another water purveyor called Greenfield, and that's in the southeast part of Bakersfield, and also as well as in the central east part of Bakersfield, or central north or east north part of Bakersfield. There's another urban water purveyor called East Niles Community Services District, and then on the far west in our Rosedale area, it serves a part of county, but also part of city limits. It's called Vaughn Water System. So that we have Vaughn Water System, the city of Bakersfield, Cal Water, Greenfield, and East Niles Community Services District, and those are the main water purveyors serving city of Bakersfield limits.
Thank you so much. And just to clarify again, for the benefit of the public, that each one of these water districts have their own governing board, have their own water board that's elected by the public.
Yes, although Cal Water, I believe, is a private company,
okay,
and so they do have a board of directors, but it's not elected by the public.
But in the case of East Niles,
in the case of East Niles, they do have a water board, exactly, and that is, and and as well as Greenfield, they have a water board as well, so which is different than Cal Water. The other ones are mutual water companies, and they have a water board elected by the public.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Freeman.
If there are no other comments, I'll make a motion to approve item 10A1 regarding water rates.
Thank you. You have a motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Weir, Councilmember Arias,
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Gray,
Aye.
and Councilmember Parlier.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. And let's take a 5-minute break now. Thank you very much. All right, let's continue now. And Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Under deferred business, item A, fiscal year 2021-2022, budget. 1, resolution approving and adopting the operating and capital improvement budgets for the city of Bakersfield, California for the fiscal year 2021-22. 2, resolution establishing City of Bakersfield appropriations limited for fiscal year 2021 through 22. Approval of the publicly available pay schedule in compliance with the Public Employees Retirement Law, Title II for the California Code of Regulations.
Thank you. City Manager, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the culmination of a long process, but Chris Huot, Assistant City Manager, will provide a brief summary to wrap it up.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. Chris Huot with the Manager's Office. A few slides to wrap up our 3.5-month-long budget process for next fiscal year. Again, I'll try to be very brief. Of course, we're here tonight on June 16th, and as I've outlined here, there have been several public meetings with the City Council reviewing and discussing the budget. As always, our budget information is available online for viewing. All the information is there on the website, along with our open budget platform, which is, again, a real-time budget tool that the public can use. So again, just to review where we have been and where we are today, revenues have generally rebounded from the first quarter 2020 dip that we saw as a result of COVID-19 and the impacts on our economy. The budget environment going into next fiscal year generally reflects a return to normalcy. Everything that is contained in this budget is driven by the council goals, including new staffing, capital projects, other programs, services, and initiatives. And again, the new staffing that the council will consider as part of the adoption of this budget enhances public safety, focuses on economic development, and addresses many of those quality of life efforts that, again, are a priority of this council. As you look at the capital improvement budget, it's a robust budget focusing on local parks, affordable housing, streets, bicycle infrastructure, and other key critical infrastructure such as water and sewer. So I want to briefly run through the changes to the proposed budget that are reflected in the numbers that you're considering adopting this evening. The major change is the $1.9 million that was changed in the last week or so based upon feedback that this council gave at its June 7th meeting. This invests, again, about $2 million across several different teams and resources to focus specifically on the Kern River Parkway, on the multi-use path. And again, I won't go through every one of these in bullet point form, but they're there for you to read. Additionally, Councilmember Gonzalez had requested and staff was able to get $50,000 included in the capital improvement project budget to update the Mechanics Bank Convention Center lobby. This will be a 2-phase project, with phase 1 being budgeted in the next fiscal year. There was also the request to convert 4 sedans that were up for replacement to motorcycles, to essentially double the amount of motorcycles that the PD would add to its fleet next year, and so that's included here. There is no monetary change. And then there were 3 technical changes that were due to either incorrect entries into the budget system or projects that were premature or money that needed to be moved from one account to another. So nothing material that changes any of the major initiatives, staffing, et cetera, in the budget that you all have seen, but again, outlined there for your information. Just a recap of where we're at with new positions. This is across all funds, across all departments. Included in this budget is the addition of 97 new positions. Again, you see the breakdown by department here. This is slightly different than that first proposal that we gave to you back on May 5th, as this includes those positions that were added as part of that Kern River Parkway team in the last, again, week and a half or so. Again, as we look at those new positions on a percentage basis, I won't spend too much time on this slide, but you can see on a percentage basis where those positions are proposed to go. Again, including all those new positions that we have included as part of that Kern River Parkway team. So let's talk numbers before we conclude. Again, what we proposed to you on May 5th was a total budget of $684.6 million. With those various changes, they actually reduced that overall allocation to $683.2 million. So that's where we stand today, broken down by operating and capital improvements, just to get a sense of how that breaks out. Oh, got ahead of myself. Last slide. For your consideration tonight is the adoption of the fiscal year 21-22 budget, which includes a resolution that outlines those expenditures by department, both the operating and the capital. Additionally, there is a resolution to adopt the 21-22 appropriations limit. This is a state requirement based upon a calculation, again, that is dictated by the state of California. And so we have calculated that limit. And the proceeds of taxes, which are budgeted against that limit, are well below that limit, so we're in good shape there. And then finally, CalPERS requires this body to approve a salary schedule. And so again, once again, that is up for your consideration. That includes the hourly rates for all full-time and temporary job classifications, inclusive of any cost of living adjustments that have been negotiated and included in the budget. So with that concludes my presentation. I am happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, the recommended actions are before you on the screen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Hewitt, for your presentation, and thanks to all of staff for their hard work in putting together this year's budget. I just have a few questions I want to ask from the comments we heard tonight. One, it was stated by a public commenter that there's a need to enhance street lighting and work on environmental design in order to improve public safety. I certainly am a big proponent of improving neighborhood safety through environmental design. I get that, and I appreciate that concept. But I just want to make it clear for all those in the community that we went through a comprehensive lighting study this last year, and that we actually are implementing, we have implementation dollars budgeted in this upcoming budget up to, I think, $1 million. Can you verify that for me, please?
Yes, Councilmember Gonzalez, through the chair, we have $1 million from this year's budget that will carry forward to begin implementation at the 56 intersections that were identified, and an additional $1 million in the proposed budget to continue additional placement and implementation of the plan.
Great. The other issue we heard about and we continue to hear about is affordable housing. And I think all of us on the council understand the need to address affordable housing in a serious way. In this budget, we're allocating $5 million in local dollars, one of the few local cities to actually use local general fund dollars for affordable housing. But this is tied to a larger plan related to possible federal funding, leveraging our local dollars to create a housing trust fund that will allow us to perhaps match those dollars with state funding. Can you describe that overall strategy for the public regarding affordable housing?
Thank you, Councilmember. And again, through the chair, the city right now has some grant funds through a Senate Bill, Senate Bill 2, that has allowed us to pursue an affordable housing strategy. That strategy is under development right now. That strategy, we've already requested from those helping us with that plan that it would contain multiple elements. It would continue to be available to fund large affordable housing multifamily projects like we've done to the tune of $9 million over the last 2 years, creating about 368 units. We're going to continue to be able to do projects like that, but the strategy also contemplates additional solutions like accessory dwelling units, and we're creating a program that will have a pre-approved set of, three actually pre-approved sets of plans that people can use at no cost to provide to their construction companies or developers that would put in accessory dwelling units, as well as incentives to help pay down some of the fees for accessory dwelling units. We're also looking at infill projects and being able to deploy funds towards projects that would build either single-family homes or duplexes or fourplexes and infill units. And then lastly, we're also looking at how we can use the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to help accommodate for some of the fees that are needed to help build park spaces in our city, but that those fees, we're looking at a policy that would allow them to be paid for those that are doing conversions to create affordable housing from either hotels or other multifamily units to create them into affordable housing. Ultimately, we're going to create this Affordable Housing Trust Fund that would be funded to the tune we're planning at this $5 million of local funds every year, but then match that with state funds, federal funds, and we're anticipating millions of dollars of investment in this coming year from the state into this topic, and probably even higher allocations in some of our federal entitlements as well that we can allocate towards this same strategy.
Thank you. My next question is regarding behavioral health. We've heard a lot of questions about funding behavioral health. The fact is, the city does not have a behavioral health department. That is a function of the county of Kern. They provide the services to our residents within the city of Bakersfield. And yet, we have been working on partnerships with the county behavioral health department in very specific ways. Mr. Klug, will you describe those strategies, particularly as it relates to differentiated response related to calls for service from the police department, and how we're working with behavioral health and identifying those individuals with behavioral health needs in the community?
I think a council member, and again through the chair, there are three distinct solutions that I would reference. One is that we are working with behavioral health to pay from city funds to have one of their clinicians in our 911 communications center to help triage and receive some of those calls and to help have a response that is professionally competent and that may reduce the need for sending a police patrol car to help someone who maybe just needs some of that behavioral or mental health support. And so we're going to be doing this on a pilot basis in this coming year to have one clinician in our communications center. If it's successful, we'll come back to council report on that and potentially could look to expand that beyond the communications center. We also have a partnership with behavioral health where it's called a co-response team. We have an officer and one employee from behavioral health who work together to reach out to those individuals that are regularly requesting police services, but that we know have some behavioral health issues, and we try and stay ahead of those to make sure that they're valid and legitimate, and make sure those individuals are also getting some case management and some support. And we've actually had conversations with behavioral health about expanding these co-response teams, some of their staff and some of our staff, on other topics, not just those that may be calling 911 regularly, but around topics like homelessness in particular is an area where we think we can expand our partnership with BHRS. And to that point, the third solution is that BHRS right now, behavioral health from the county right now, has a project that's called Project Rome, where they are working with 25, and they call them high acuity individuals. These are individuals who have significant mental health needs and challenges, and that they're trying to work with individuals experiencing homelessness that have these behavioral health needs. And we've partnered with them to guarantee that there will be beds at our BLNC for at least 2 of those individuals through this pilot program. And we're working closely with them, with our rapid response and flood ministries and that outreach, and hope to continue to foster a good partnership because that is definitely part of this overall solution.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez and City Manager Clegg. We have had some successes with people coming off the streets who are severely mentally ill, and we have placed them in places where they can get the appropriate level of service. Colleagues, any other requests to speak? Councilmember Freeman?
I will make a motion to approve item 12A.
You have a motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Weir. Councilmember Arias.
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Gray.
Aye.
And Councilmember Parlier. Aye. Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Also under deferred business, item B, Bakersfield Southern Pacific Station lease and maintenance plan.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg.
Mayor and Council, as the presentation is coming up, this item is circling back from a previous conversation at the council related to the Sumner station. And these first few slides I'll move through fairly quickly, but again, largely for the public record. I have to learn from the other presenters who had to know where to point this. There we go. So this is, of course, a historic site, and the railroad is seeking to demolish the structure or to sell the structure itself and lease the land on top of it. Currently, the conditions at this site, it has unique architectural aspects on the exterior. The interior has been remodeled a few times over the years, and it is an older building, and so it requires significant renovation, and there have been some vandalism issues, and that's why our proposal tonight will include some of the security. And ultimately, for redevelopment, there are some significant redevelopment needs, but again, it has some unique architectural elements and is an anchor building in Old Town Kern. It would be well served by having a market assessment to understand the commercial viability and to see also some considerations about how it could play into the future high-speed rail. But again, it is a unique asset in the area. There are funds available for purposes like these, our Economic Opportunity Area program as well as our Urban Renewal program. There are funds, and we're proposing the funds that are at least on the table tonight to come from that Urban Renewal funding source. And also we look forward to having our city staff available to facilitate some of that potential private development by a new owner and assist in that process. So to the specifics and the details, the rail, excuse me, we first went back and tried to refine some of the costs and scope to reflect the feedback from the City Council. We had just identified a full scope of potential capital improvements that might be needed for the future redevelopment, but we took a hard look and said, what do we need to do for the next 12 months to just maintain the facility per the direction of council? And you see the range there. It'll cost about $118,000 to $130,000, and it's largely reflects the security and alarming and securing the facility from the entry points. So the plan does maintain the structure in an as-is condition. We're not making significant improvements to the location. We did look at the costs based on experience at 2 other sites that the city has been maintaining that we've seen a fair number of break-ins and homelessness challenges. And so we wanted to make sure there was enough money in this budget so that we can continue to do board ups and keep securing the facility if there continues to be other vandalism or break-ins by individuals in the area. There is important security systems that we're proposing on site. These are actually two-way cameras and motion sensors that can be monitored 24/7. And as those sensors get tripped, then someone will get on the video and see who is inside the building and be able to communicate with them and sound an alarm. And the effort with that is to try and save sending out security or police or other city staff and taking that time by sending out, by first communicating to them through the video. And then also it includes securing the doors and windows in the facility to make sure that it's a secure site. And we've included in the budget about $30,000 to continue to do board ups along the doors and windows, but it does not have contingency for other unforeseen larger damages or repairs to the facility. And the lease terms, we were fortunate to get favorable lease terms. Again, we're doing this, we feel, as a community benefit. And so the railroad has offered a 12-month lease that can be terminated at any time. There's no cost to it. We cannot occupy the building, but we have talked to them about holding trainings from the police department there on site to be a deterrent to individuals that may be in the area thinking about using it for uses that are not authorized. So here's the budget with a little bit more detail. The largest cost, again, is the installation of the monitoring system. And then we have made some estimates about how often we may have call-outs that we may need to send folks to the site. If individuals aren't leaving, we will send security and ultimately police as well. So in our next steps, we have that our Economic and Community Development Department will work to help market this site, that we will provide periodic updates to the City Council over the next 12 months, come back before the expiration of the lease, and if there is no action, it could ultimately mean that the railroad moves forward with their plans for demolition. So on the actual action tonight includes the 12-month lease with the railroad, again at no cost, an agreement with Teltech to do the installation and monitoring, and then we also are approving the estimated costs to move them into a specific budget line item for those board ups that may happen over time, and staff would be able to facilitate those on an as needed basis. And open for any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Clegg, thank you very much for this presentation and for all the work that went into this presentation and actually this agreement. I'm very pleased with this. Colleagues, thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to work with Union Pacific to get this far in negotiations. Obviously, this is an important structure historically, but even more than that, there's an opportunity here for economic development, for a neighborhood that's a disadvantaged community, and a real opportunity for us to create jobs, create business opportunities in that area, and to save a historic structure. So there's a multimodal benefit here. Again, thanks for the support on this. I'm hoping that we can proceed and then do the real work over the next 12 months and find a developer to actually save the structure, to do something with it. There are some promising leads out there, but I think that by pulling together a team within the city and with private folks, that we can find the right developer. So with that, I'd like to make the motion to approve the lease, the agreements, the maintenance and improvement plan, and budget transfer.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Freeman.
I just want to say I'm totally in favor of this, and I'm ready to vote.
Okay. So I don't see any other requests to speak. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm very in favor of this. I think it's important for that Old Town Kern to save this structure, and I'm hopeful that we can find a business. I'd point out the redevelopment costs money. You know, we do have to go back in and build some streets sometimes, and curb and gutter and sidewalk, and replace sewer, replace storm drain, and, you know, sometimes it's buildings, and when that infrastructure is in place, all of it, then we have a lot better opportunity to increase businesses in those communities. So I think it's a good move, and I'm very hopeful. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other colleagues wishing to speak? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, we have a motion. Please call the roll call.
Vice Mayor Weir. Councilmember Arias.
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Freeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Gray.
Aye.
And Councilmember Parlier.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Under new business, item A, American Rescue Plan Act overview.
Thank you. Mr. Clegg.
Mayor and Council, Chris Hewitt, again, Assistant City Manager, will provide some overview remarks for the American Rescue Plan Act funding, and then I'll make some final comments.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council once again. Tonight we are going to provide you with an overview of the American Rescue Plan Act, what it is, the eligible uses, other details, and the plan moving forward, with one request to the council this evening that I'll cover in just a minute. As overview, this legislation was signed into law at the federal level in March of 2021. It provided $1.9 trillion in the stimulus package that was spread across several different programs and intended to impact several different areas and sectors that were impacted negatively by COVID-19. One of the elements of the legislation was $65.1 billion that was allocated directly to cities through a modified community development block grant formula. That's a long-winded way of saying a federal formula that they use to provide other funds to cities. It was determined that the city of Bakersfield would receive a direct allocation of about $94.5 million. That allocation is to be provided to the city in two installments. The first has been received by the federal government. The second is set to be received in about a 12-month time period. It's really one-time funding in nature. It's not meant to support ongoing new programs necessarily. The city is required to obligate or encumber those funds by the end of the year in 2024, and then from there must expend those dollars no later than December 31st of 2026, which is covered up there, but it's 2026. So let's talk a little bit about the eligible uses, and then I will defer to City Manager Clegg for some additional comments in this section. Big picture, the main areas of eligible uses outlined in the legislation include direct COVID-19 pandemic response, including some of those city costs for direct mitigation and prevention activities. It also includes an area of COVID economic impact eligible costs. And again, I won't run through all of these, but things like business assistance and impacted industries where there is a nexus between the impacts of COVID, the funding is available for those use with some limitations. I did want to fast forward down at the bottom. There is a presumption of eligibility for certain types of services and programs within qualified census tracts. So I'll get to that in just a minute because that's an important element of this discussion. Two of the other major categories is premium pay to eligible workers. I did want to mention to the City Council that there is more specification in the legislation on definition of eligible workers that could be eligible for this element, and not all city job classifications or functions are eligible. There's also another category that focuses on infrastructure, but it's rather specific, and that focuses on necessary water, sewer, and broadband projects. And again, there's some eligibility requirements generally that define what projects may be eligible for funding. But you can again see that they revolve around some of the different programs that are already in place and some of those definitions that our teams are reviewing. Specific to broadband, it allows for the extension of broadband services to underserved and unserved areas. There's some requirements in terms of speed and other elements of those services for that to occur. So let's talk real quick about the qualified census tracts, because the qualified census tracts, again, the way the legislation is written, there is some more flexibility in some of the work and expenditures that can be made in those areas. As defined, the qualified census tract is, again, any census tract in which at least 50% of the households have an income less than 60% of the area median gross income, or which has a poverty rate of at least 25%. So let me visually define that for you. These are the identified qualified census tracts that sit within the city of Bakersfield's jurisdiction. Most of them, again, are east of 8th Street or so, and then extend north and south of State Route 58 and 178 there. There is one further to the south that we've included in that box, Panama Lane, just east of Hoskins Avenue. So you get a general sense of where those qualified census tracts are. And again, the eligibility for some of these programs is a bit more lenient, I would say, in terms of what can be done in these geographical areas. So let's talk about ineligible uses, just to get those out there. Again, these are the broad categories. There's a bit more guidance that the Treasury is providing us, but these are the major categories. Things like federal matching requirements for grants, premium pay, pensions. This is an important one. Infrastructure not directly addressed in ARPA. Sewer, water, and broadband were the three infrastructure categories addressed in ARPA directly. So the guidance to date has specifically said infrastructure not addressed in ARPA, which we have some inquiries in, and I'll talk about that in just a moment. And then rainy day funds, financial reserves, outstanding debt, that's a no-no as well. So I did asterisk that infrastructure item because we are seeking further guidance regarding infrastructure improvements that may not be sewer, water, or broadband, but that are necessary potentially within qualified census tracts that connect to some of the other verbiage in the legislation, such as health disparities in childhood healthy environments. Because we believe potentially that there's opportunity for pedestrian and other safety elements such as lighting and other types of basic infrastructure. But we need to seek clarity. At this point, it is not clear to staff if there's an exception for that type of infrastructure in those qualified census tracts. I've been in contact with Cal Cities and others to try to get some clarity through some of our advocacy agencies. So at this point, I'll walk through some of the bigger concepts that staff has been working on for the council's consideration. Nothing tonight that we're talking about is set in stone, but we are again looking in those qualified census tracts to focus on business assistance, entrepreneurship type programs, workforce development, and again, that infrastructure element. Generally, regardless of qualified census tracts or not, we're looking at in the community development area opportunities to enhance food security. On the homelessness front, there's potentially an opportunity to get at expansion of services at the BLNC. There's some other regional homeless projects that we're talking about with other partners. And again, this potentially has the opportunity to provide that one-time funding that's necessary to get those off the ground. Of course, we've talked a lot tonight and in previous meetings about housing. That is one of the allowable expenditures. So again, looking at opportunities not just for affordable housing in the traditional sense, but also finding ways to promote infill and blighted property rehabilitation with, again, that affordable housing carrot, so to speak, at the end of that program. So there is the opportunity, again, for the city to direct expense and lost revenue. The lost revenue element is a new one that wasn't something that we were eligible for under the CARES Act, which was the previous stimulus package. But unfortunately, due to how the legislation is written, the city won't be able to likely take advantage of that lost revenue, even though we have seen some of our revenue streams dip because of COVID-19. The way the legislation is written, because of how they like to pool all of our general revenues, in particular because of the timing of the implementation of Measure N, we cannot take advantage of the lost revenue at this point based upon how the guidance is written. Tourism, again, is another area where there's a direct opportunity to invest dollars that are 100% eligible. And again, we've had some discussions with David Lyman's team down at Visit Bakersfield and at the Mechanics Bank Arena about ways we could support those operations and support our private partners in the hospitality and tourism industries locally. As David has pointed out previously, there's quite a bit of economic impact tied back to those businesses and jobs as well. So there's some thoughts in this area. And then, of course, as I mentioned, infrastructure, pretty broad in the sense of the water, sewer, and broadband, what can be done under that umbrella. We are doing a scope and location analysis right now on projects that may have the most bang for the buck, so to speak, and that can be completed in the timeline that we have before us.
If I could jump in here now, Mr. Houghton, if you go back one slide. You know, and it's been a long night, and this is not the last time that we'll talk about this, but we really wanted to bring this up at least within the same context as the budget, because this is an additional, as he pointed out, $94 million over the next 3 to 6 years. And this is an opportunity to really think big. And so I just wanted to reflect on some key themes from this slide. Of course, the funding actually presumes a connection with the impacts of COVID. And so that's one of the overarching connections we have to make with each of the programs that we propose. But I think along with responding to how COVID may have had its impacts, I think the qualified census tracts and what's available in those qualified census tracts, it's really a unique opportunity. These are one-time funds. So we have to be careful to not try and plan lots of ongoing operations, but it's a chance to really, build out, elements of a better Bakersfield in ways that we couldn't do otherwise. And so when you look at this and think about how do we really create new business in some of those East Bakersfield qualified census tracts, how do we create assets and build capital in those areas that where it's needed and create that revitalization? How do we address some of the challenges and issues around homelessness? And then especially on that last bullet on housing, we have an opportunity to go really big and to put a lot of affordable housing into those qualified, census tracts to meet many of our goals. And so we talked about that Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The city's putting $5 million in. We think we can get significant match from the state. But when you think about the terms of these dollars, we could spend $10 million really ramping up our affordable housing efforts and getting further ahead on that than we are today. So just wanted to highlight as an overall theme that this is a real opportunity to hit these areas hard. You saw a longer list of other eligible expenses, but they're not necessarily within the jurisdiction of the city. Some of those like, early childhood and healthcare. And these are the issues that are on the table already today that we're funding to a degree in our budget, but this really gives us an opportunity to amplify that and have some real game changer moments in getting at some of our biggest issues. So these are the staff recommended concepts, this slide and the other slide that we just looked at. Out of that full list of eligibility, we think these are the ways to prioritize these one-time funds to make a big change.
Turn that back on. So getting towards the end of the presentation, there is one action item that staff is requesting, and it's primarily due to timing. So if we rewind, under the CARES Act, there were some eligible costs specifically around medical aid calls for the fire department and public safety that the council approved at the time, some of the expenditures of CARES Act dollars to essentially reimburse the city for those specific general fund costs. And we've continued to track those costs, even though the CARES Act funding went away at the end of the calendar year, 2020. So we've tracked those costs, and between January and June of this calendar year, we have an estimated $7 million in those same eligible type of fire department costs. And again, because of timing, they're not reimbursable under CARES Act. As part of this overall package, staff was and will continue to bring a portion of these funds to you under the heading of those direct cost reimbursements. But what we were seeking to do this evening, if the council concurs, was to go ahead and request the formal appropriation of these funds within the current fiscal year at the amount of $7 million to reimburse the city's general fund for those direct costs. And again, that's an accounting need if we're going to account for those in the current fiscal year, since this is the last meeting of the year. Again, it would offset those general fund costs, and that those general fund dollars would then potentially be available in the form of one-time savings that we could discuss for use at mid-year or potentially sooner within the next fiscal year. So that's why we are asking for this one item this evening. Talking about some of the next steps, you noticed we did not nail down dollar amounts and some specific programs this evening. That's because some of those programs and some of those things that were not necessarily included in the CARES Act, we're still actually waiting on some final guidance to be issued by the Treasury for some of these new areas that this money is now eligible for. We do anticipate the comment period closing here in the next couple weeks at the Treasury, and then we do expect those final guidance documents to be issued soon after. Again, we want to make sure that we have additional clarification on those eligible or potentially eligible census tract infrastructure items. We obviously want city council input, and we'd like to, over the next 60 days or so, if necessary, come back potentially in another planning type of session, but then within that time frame as well, come back with a more concrete plan and dollar amounts to begin the actual process of putting money into these programs and getting the ball rolling on expenditures. So again, tonight, what we're asking is, one, to obviously receive and file the presentation, but again, if the council is willing, again, from an accounting standpoint and timing standpoint, go ahead and appropriate $7 million of the ARPA funds to the fire department operating budget for those eligible costs, again, which offset some general fund dollars in the current year. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hewitt. Councilmember Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mayor. Very exciting time for the city. These are opportunities for us to really implement game-changing projects, particularly in disadvantaged neighborhoods. And I can just say, as one councilman, affordable housing should be the key priority. This is our opportunity to do a lot of different things. Towards that end, I'd like to ask staff if they can, begin developing an aggressive and creative plan on how to add more affordable housing units. So whether it be infill development, a lot of these vacant parcels on the east side and the southeast side, looking at duplexes, triplexes, how do we get those online? How do we get more units available online as quickly as possible? And we got to be very aggressive right now. But thank you for the presentation. Very exciting stuff. With that, I'll move to receive and file the presentation and approve the appropriation.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Councilmember Freeman.
Again, I support the motion. Ready to vote.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple things. I agree, housing, but let's figure out how to do affordable housing cheaper than $500,000 per unit. And I think, the duplexes or small single family, there's ways to do it much cheaper than what we've been in, and also to get some sharing money with the state and federal on that, beyond that. Also, we could be creative in how to support businesses in Southeast Bakersfield, local businesses to get started. I think it's a great opportunity for that also. That's my comments, and I look forward to it.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. I don't see any other requests to speak, so we have a motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Weir, Councilmember Arias,
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Councilmember Freeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Gray, aye, and Councilmember Parlier.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Council and mayor statements.
Colleagues, Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been my first budget process, and I just want to say to the public that I've been very pleased with what I've seen and the ease of it, the professionalism that we have experienced going through this budget process. It was a really scary thing for me going in, and I was able to really study over it and am very very pleased with the outcome. As individual council members, we have been elected and charged by our voters in our wards to be wise stewards of our city budget, including our measure-in funds, also known as public safety vital service funds. I believe that we all here on this dais have taken that very seriously during this budget process. As you all know, like I've said, this is my first process to participate in. And one concern that I had, I have to be honest, was waiting to see if we had a bloated government here in Bakersfield. And I was very mindful of this throughout the process as each of the department heads were presenting their proposal budgets. But I'm pleased to say that I've seen a common thread throughout the process when comparing each department's staffing to other like cities. It has been proven to us as council members that we are much leaner than other cities per capita being served. Our city's growing. We should be very grateful for that because we are a growing city. And so we need to increase staffing. So I just want to say that the staffing that's been approved tonight, I believe, is very necessary to meet the demands of our city. But with that being said, we must continue to operate as a lean city as much as we possibly can because we don't want to pass on a lot of pension funding to our future generations. So I believe our city manager, assistant city manager, and our council and staff have been working hard to make sure that we weren't overfunded. So as a council, we've been hearing consistently from the majority that the top priorities in our city are public safety, homelessness, and a clean city. And I'm very grateful that we were able to address each one of those areas as you've gone over tonight. I think for the public's sake, before I was on the council, I had no understanding of this, and it's really important. I'm glad you went back over the highlights tonight, Chris. It was very helpful to the public. So with that, I'm just very grateful to say that first, I'm an American, I'm a United States citizen, and secondly, that I live, work, and serve in the great city of Bakersfield. We're very blessed here. We have a very generous community that was brought up tonight. And we have so many citizens that are out there in the community. We're serving here doing this, but there's so many out there that are on the front lines and volunteering their time and their talent and their money to make city of Bakersfield a better place. And so I hope all of those that came tonight could say the same thing. So we as your elected officials appreciate your continued support, your feedback, your prayer, and encouragement, because it takes all of us to make the city a place that we can be proud of. And I am one of those.
Thank you, Councilmember Gray. Councilmember Arias.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to show my appreciation for everybody in this room, including our BPD officers there in the back. Today was an exceptional day, and you truly held your ground in a very respectful way, so I just wanted to extend my sincerest of thank yous to you guys. I don't know if everybody is still here and in the chambers, but I appreciate everything that you guys do, and I want to say thank you to our most gracious mayor for running this meeting as efficiently and graciously as you possibly could. With that, I want to say thank you to Randy and Chris and Christian, who have worked countless hours on this budget and were accepting and very receptive of some of our feedback and being willing to work with us on some of those changes that we were looking for. I'm very proud of this budget. I think there are a lot of wonderful things, including some of the community revitalization dollars that are going to go into the Southeast. We are excited about making historic investments into the Kern River Parkway. Some investments that, advocates like Bill Cooper and Eddie Lane, who have been advocating for decades on decades for personnel out there, looking for security, looking for some resources to address some of the homelessness out there. So I am just incredibly excited. I know it's 9 p.m., but there are some really fantastic things that are in this budget that I am personally proud of. With that, we should make haste while we have plenty of resources and ample funding at the local level, at the state level, and at the federal level. And with that, I want to make two referrals tonight. One of the major challenges in the Southeast when it comes to infrastructure is Union Avenue. And one of the challenges to addressing that from a city level is that it falls into 3 different jurisdictions, both the city, the county, and Caltrans. And to make it more difficult is that it kind of bounces around along Union. And so I would like to make a referral that staff look into opportunities for us to at least begin negotiations with Caltrans on decommissioning Union, so that, as you said, Christian, take fate into our own hands and see what we can do. There are a lot of public safety challenges, traffic challenges, pedestrian issues, human trafficking issues. The list goes on and on. So let's be aggressive. Let's start making some movement and progress on that. The second thing that I wanted to mention, Andre, Bob, thank you guys so much for talking about affordable housing. One of the broader policy challenges that I see with affordable housing is that we continue to build, affordable housing projects in low-income communities. And I think it's critical that we understand that homelessness affects all of our wards, every single part of the city. Just about every single business has been affected by this. Just about every single community and neighborhood has been affected by this. And I think it's incumbent upon us to come together as a council to really work through these challenges and recognize that we all bear some responsibility of building some of these more affordable housing units. So if I may make a referral to staff, let's bring back and really think about some of these more innovative policy solutions that might incentivize, maybe engage our private developers to work on producing some of these more affordable units throughout the city. With that, just want to say thank you guys and have a wonderful night.
Thank you, Councilmember Arias. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to say I think we've responded to the community with this budget, and we passed PSVS a couple years ago, and it's really been getting up to speed. And at this time, we had the survey by the chamber, and public safety and homeless and economic development are obviously what the community is concerned about, and this budget does focus on that. We also got feedback from the Oversight Committee about local parks and lighting, and we're heavily addressing those issues that we got feedback on. The Kern River Parkway, we've seen that deteriorate, and it's part of some of the other problems, but we put a lot of focus on that. And the affordable housing, we're doing more than, like Councilman Gonzalez mentioned, more than other local communities with local money. And so I think we're moving in the right direction in a lot of areas, and glad to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Gonzalez.
I'm sorry, I know everyone wants to go home, but I felt I should chime in. I too want to thank all of the officers who were here today and who helped us facilitate this meeting. Much appreciated. And I also want to thank Councilmember Gray for her comments this evening. I agree. I'm very proud of the budget. I'm very proud of this council. Very, very proud of the mayor. We remain responsive to the community in various different ways every single day. And I see my colleagues and the comments and the constituent requests and how engaged we all are. And I just want to lift that up and say that, if folks in the community have a concern, have an issue, you don't have to come to council meeting and cuss us out. You can just give us a phone call. You can text me. You can meet me in the park when I have a park event. But you don't have to go to extremes. We are trying to be accessible, and it's only together and by working with one another that we can actually move our community forward. And I get that, and we're going to continue to work on that and partner with whomever wants to work constructively.
Thank you, Councilmember Gonzalez. Any other requests to speak? We're so fortunate as a city to have staff, many of whom work year after year and serve year after year. And we recently lost a 25-year staffer, Debbie Lund, who served in the city attorney's office. City attorney, would you like to make any comments about Ms. Lund?
Thank you, Mayor. I had the privilege of coming on board with Debbie right at the same time, and she will be missed. It's quite a shock to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And so tonight we want to close and adjourn the meeting in memory and in honor of Debbie Lund for her many years of service and for her love for our community. So we are adjourned at 9:06.